In this corner, the Boomerweight champion of the world, the only man to outdrink vodka drunkinski, Manuel. And in this corner, weighing none of your business, we have. Sorry, wait, what's this? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm being told this isn't a boxing match. This is just, we're reading real Bout High School this time.
Hey everyone, I'm Manuel.
I'm B.
I'm JD, and you're reading the wrong way.
Hey everyone, it's December. It's the what do you call this month? The happy holiday month. If you celebrate, forget it. If it's December, just do what you want. Have a good time. Yeah, it's December. I chose the manga, and I chose Samurai Girl Real Bout High School, which is funny because I never use a Samurai Girl prefix before it.
Well, the Samurai Girl prefix is a lot smaller on the cover, so I understand how your boomer eyes might not have been able to read it.
Well, see, I have all these notes about it too. This series, the manga series, was a short run series that was a spin-off of a light novel series.
Was it not an adaptation?
No, it's not an adaptation. I actually thought it was too, and I looked it up because there's all these weird references here and there that feel okay. They don't even feel like references. There's these weird one-shot characters and weird lines that I just was confused by. And then I tried to. Nobody's translated the light novels fully, but like you can get snippets here and there. The light novels are about a teacher. And no, it's not the teacher in the manga. It's about a teacher and like how he's dealing with the with the students and the K fight system and everything like that. Everyone from the almost everyone from the manga is new.
Huh.
And the manga got an anime adaptation partway through, and apparently there's even a reference to it in one of the author sides. Apparently there's a bit of a split in the fandom of Real Bout High School because the light novel series went on for like 15 years, by the way. There's a split between the fandom that don't like the anime and manga, you know the manga as it were, this one, because it's so different. So yeah, we read it. It's 6 volumes. It's early 2000s. TokyoPop released it. And I think I'll save some of my stuff about TokyoPop at the end, but TokyoPop released it. And I think I'm the only one old enough to remember this, but they pushed the hell out of this manga when it came out. And I should say just the manga. They pushed the hell out of the anime.
Yeah, I had never heard of it before you brought it up.
Because
I had vaguely heard of it.
I looked this up right before the show. TokyoPop didn't really get into anime distribution. Like, they did manga, but they didn't do anime. And this was one of their first and one of their biggest titles. They pretty much did everything Samurai Girl. And I think there was even talk about doing the light novels at one point, but nobody was doing light novels back then. But like, if you went to Anime Expo, this was all over the place. They pushed the hell. Like, it was on the cover of like, I think Animerica and New Type USA. Well, New Type USA didn't exist yet. Did it? It doesn't matter. But it was all over the place, like in the English speaking fandom. It's funny because like a lot of YouTubers talk about like the death of the monoculture. But back then, like, anime kind of was like a monoculture. Like, you only got like what, a dozen or two shows, dozen or two mangas, all of them were TokyoPop. This was one of the few things you had to read back then. So let's just dive into it. It's how would you describe it, B?
I wanted to call it a battle shonen, but it's like deceptively not one.
Yeah.
I was really expecting something different when we started. Even after the first volume, I had been expecting something different to what the rest of it is.
So dang it, why do I not have her last name written in my notes? Oh, I do have it written in my notes. So thank you. I saw it in my notes. So like the titular samurai girl is Ryoko Mitsurugi, and it basically stars her trials and tribulations to become a quote unquote great woman, which I feel like is a weird translation. I'm not sure, but like that gets repeated a lot.
It does.
And yes, she's a member of the Kendo Club. The school apparently, well, not just the school, apparently like all of like, I don't know if that's supposed to be Tokyo or whatever, is like full of delinquents and like craziness. And
it is Tokyo. They mentioned like Ikebukuro.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. They do mention Ikebukuro. You're right. But yeah, apparently it's all full of like, violence and whatever. The principal likes fights. A little weird when you think about it. And he institutes a K-fight system. And they never say this in the manga. Do you guys know what K-fight stands for?
I found it after the fact. It's something to do with street fight.
Yeah, exactly. It's Kenkaku. It's funny because now I'm scared to say it because the whole Keikaku joke.
Kenka, Manuel.
Kenka. There you go. Sorry, it's Kenka. But yeah, and that's what the case stands for. They never mention that in the manga for reasons. Maybe they just assume that's not important, but I think it's important. That was
I mean, if it's a spinoff, they assume you're already familiar.
But yeah, so this one deals more with the students. It has your random cast. It has her best Ryoko's best friend Hitomi, who's kind of like what's that girl's name from Cardcaptor Sakura, the homie from that
Tomoyo.
one? Yeah, it's like the Tomoyo of this one, who's like kind of a will they won't they. Like I was kind of confused about some of her characters. Like she obviously like is really close with Ryoko, but like they kind of give that does she like her? Kind of here and there. And then there's also a transfer student named Shizuma, and he becomes like Ryoko's main rival throughout the whole series. And what I find really funny is that his Hitomi in the first volume or two is this guy named Daisaku.
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly that almost gets almost dropped. And Daisaku's main characteristic later on is not that he's Shizuma's best friend, but it's that he's like Ryoko's like number one stalker.
I barely remembered that they were even friends at any point.
Exactly.
I just knew him as the guy with the camera.
But they were hanging out for the whole first few chapters, and it's almost like, that's boring. He doesn't need a friend,
He is more fun later when he doesn't have a friend.
He is more fun later when he doesn't have a friend. And then we have Azumi, her rival in more ways than one. She fights with the naginata, which is first of all, I said Ryoko is a kendo, so she fights with a sword. Azumi fights with the naginata, which is like a halberd, like a wooden one, of course. And she's part of the flower arranging club, and she's like rich girl and everything like that, the very Hime type. And she's Ryoko's, what's the word, rival in more ways than one.
Yeah, you said that already, Manuel.
Oh, did I really?
Yes.
Edit around that or something. Anyway, she's her rival in more ways than one. Third time's the charm, guys.
Manuel, I know you're a boomer, but I don't think you're that much of a boomer.
But because they're both in love with the same guy, Ryoko and Azumi are, Tatsuya, who is also a member of the Kendo Club, but he's a senior.
He's the captain of the team.
Oh, is he the captain? I feel like I forgot that.
Well, I didn't realize that at first. I think I noticed I noticed actually rereading the directory that they give, the little bios at the beginning of the first volume. It mentions that he's the president, but I don't really remember reading that throughout the actual manga.
But yeah, they go to Daemon High School. They have a weird fight-loving principal. There's an interesting thing about the whole manga. It's 6 volumes, but the first 3 volumes are one thing, and the last 3 volumes are something else.
Yeah, there's barely a high school in the second half.
Yes. So there's the high school arc, and then we'll get to the second arc later on, but this is the high school arc where fights take place in the high school. The principal loves it, and the school's kind of set up for it. People are filming it. They have an announcer. I have her name somewhere, and I think it was Mizumi or something like that.
Yeah,
I forgot her name.
She's my favorite character in this, honestly. I also forgot her name though. I forgot her name.
Tamaki Nakamura.
Oh, Tamaki. Wow, that's not what I was
thinking. That's also not what I wrote. Hold on.
Yeah, it's also not what I wrote either. Hold on. Dead silence. Hold on. I gotta look this up too.
So yes, these K fights are kind of.
Wait, who's Natsumi?
Yeah, Natsumi. I wrote that down too. I wrote Natsumi Fujishima.
Okay, I was looking at the Wikipedia page, so I will look over it again, and I will.
Let me also look at the Wikipedia page now.
It says Takumi Nakamura, Diamond High School's fast-talking K-fight announcer.
Huh. Weird. Maybe it's the anime.
Because by the end, they have two girls doing the announcing.
Maybe that's it.
That could be it, too. But yeah, they start fighting a lot. Ryoko's also the school idol, so to speak, because everyone
they call her. I think they call her Samurai Idol, right?
Yeah.
Or something to that effect.
And I find that funny because I don't think they ever quite explain why she is, except that she's
the best.
Because she's pretty and beats everyone up.
Yeah.
I mean, we only see her doing that in the context of kendo at school. At least she is trying to keep that image. She has her kind of character bits are dealing with balancing some of her side that likes to battle and her side that wants to be seen as a traditional woman.
Look, as far as we know, in this world, the economy is completely based on.
The whole beginning of the thing, they're fighting a street gang. First of all,
The Vipers.
yes, the Vipers, who come up again later on, but they do not look the same anymore. Because
They come up again later on for like one page, and then it turns out it's not about them.
Yes,
Manuel.
I was. They bring back the Vipers.
Manuel, in universe time, I think it's been at least half a year. They just went over a rebranding.
Okay, well, I'm glad they did, because you want to talk. I have it in my notes. Do you want to talk about the Vipers when they first show up?
Oh my god, no.
Because I we'll just say they look very 1930s 40s German. We'll just say that. And like they even have a leader that looks like that. You know, they do the salute. I'm like, oh my god. And that's so early on. I remember when I read that actually when we were still doing the Uzumaki episode or whatever, and I was just like, oh my, not even Uzumaki, the Tenmaka Cinema, sorry, that far back. But I was like, oh my god, I don't know if we could like, you know, do this. I'm like, is the whole thing going to be like this? The whole first part of it, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kekko Kamen.
No, I'm not.
No.
It reminded me a lot of that because Kekko Kamen involves this tough Yankee girl who has this BFF who's always getting like, you know, picked on at the school, and then she like defends her all the time. Pretty much all of her fights involve because she's defending her best friend, and obviously Kekko Kamen defends her too, but it's her, you know, whatever. There was a lot of that vibe going on in the first volume or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, is she gonna like end up? The Vipers gonna be like the reoccurring villains that I forgot about? You know, they're gonna keep coming back, and we have to keep acknowledging this very awkward game. But thank god they never come back. Oh, but like we said, they come back for one page later on, but they've thankfully rebranded.
Yeah, they did kind of come off to me as like a villain of the week, which is again like why I thought this was going to be more of that battle shonen. We're gonna get a cast and they're gonna fight someone new every chapter or whatever. And surprisingly, it was nothing like that at all.
Yeah, like I thought so too. Like they kind of lead it off as, oh, they're gonna be all these fights. Ryoko starts fighting all of her rivals pretty much right away, and it's like, oh,
in more ways than one.
Yeah, in more ways than one. Yeah, she fights Azumi at one point in the first volume. That's the Naginata, you know, girl I mentioned earlier who's also in love with Tatsuya. And she kind of shows off her skill there. Like, well, not her skill, but like her sheer like strength. She wins that battle by tanking the hit. Azumi hits you with like she's like, I can't dodge her blows. So she's like, fuck it, I'll just let her hit me. And then she beats up Shizuma after that anyway. Well, actually, that's the whole thing where like, you know, they have a thing. Also, I don't think we mentioned this yet, going on about like kind of Ryoko's battle with her own like cuteness, femininity, whatever word you want to use. She's really tall. And by really tall, I mean like, I still wonder how tall. 5'9".
That also comes up like once, but it is like...
Well, if you notice it visually, it comes up a lot because she's taller than like everyone else in the cast. And I feel like that, like you said, that gets mentioned like once. But if you notice it, it's like, oh, okay, everyone's just really short then. I don't know if that's just a tall guy talking, you know, but like whenever I think of people, I'm like 5'9" does not feel that tall.
I mean, it's tall for, I think, Japan, especially for a Japanese woman.
I don't know. Like I always talk about this. Like some of my friends who I feel are tall and they're like 5'7". I'm like, you're not tall.
Manuel, tallness is relative.
Anyway, speaking as someone who's like 6'2" on a good day, I mean on a bad day, I'm just like 5'9" is nothing. But yeah, she's taller than everyone else. She's taller than like Daisaku must be like 5 feet even because he is like way tiny compared to her. But like, you know, everyone else is like.
Wait, I think they mentioned his height in one chapter. And I believe it is like 5'2".
I was about to say, now that I said that,
was that the one?
5'2" or 5'4".
That's literally the time her height comes up is measuring against him.
Yeah, it just dawned on me this second. I'm like, wait a minute. I think that's when they bring it up.
I think someone else is like 5'1" because they note that there's like an 8-inch difference between them, and so that person's just like at her, like the bottom of her face.
But yeah, the whole first volume is weird because they start throwing in all these storylines that I feel kind of go in places I didn't expect them to. Like Shizuma, I guess because we can't have him fight Ryoko too much this early on, he ends up getting into a feud with the teacher.
Yeah.
So the K fights are kind of set up to solve student disputes because there are so many clubs that need so many things. It's just like, let's just all throw representatives in the ring. Whoever wins the fight is the winner of the dispute, gets whatever they want out of that.
I love that he wasn't even a transfer student originally. He was just a guy who loved to fight. And then he was like, hey, I'm looking for a school. And the principal's like, well, I love watching you fight.
Yeah, there's a school festival in the first volume. There's like essentially a battle royale. Just like whoever wins a round just keeps fighting until they either beating everyone up or they lose. Shizuma does that. And because he's an outsider coming in and tarnishing the school's reputation for having great fighters, they kind of just accept him as a transfer student immediately.
It's weird. I feel like that was a good plot point. Not to jump too far ahead, but the whole thing about like getting the fights with the teachers, that actually jumped in my brain almost immediately. I'm like, can they fight the teachers? Because not only obviously does this chapter end with like Shizuma and the teacher kind of going at it, and then that becomes like kind of the whole focus for the second volume. I mean, there's some part later on where like some delinquents in the school just like punk this like poor 20-something, 30-something like female teacher who's like clearly not a fighter. And so like, I challenge you to a K fight. And it's like, what did you do? Beat her up? By the way, I feel like this only gets mentioned after all this fights have been happening. Like somewhere in volume like 3 or 4 they mention it, that apparently the challenged gets to choose the means of the fight.
Yeah, that was actually great because I love I wrote in my notes too, I love that idea that sometimes they're just playing a board game.
Yeah.
The idea that they still bring out the whole ring and crowd around it, and the announcer girl comes out and everything, and then they're just playing like Go.
Because it's explained, because like at some point they're talking about everyone's records, and Shizuma has lost several fights, and it's like, wait, we know he lost the Ryoko fight, but like what? And it's like, oh, it's because like the challenge gets to choose what it is, and it's presumably Shizuma lost in like chess or something.
Yeah,
they made it chess boxing.
So I keep thinking about that stuff too the whole time. I'm like, well, technically that teacher could have just got out the fight, been like, yeah, well, I challenge you to math, you don't study. You know. And there you go. The dispute's done. But they make it seem like,
hey, I'm your teacher. I challenge you to take your final exam.
Exactly. Here you go. We'll see who wins. I feel like there's some easy outs there, but I also feel like that was kind of them writing themselves out of the corner, because in my head I'm like, well, then the delinquents will just take over the school. Obviously, like people like Kyoko are like, they make it their goal to like beat up the delinquents, but it's still like, I don't know, it felt like an odd plot point. Also, I have it in my notes, enter Daiichi Koga. I guess he's gonna be like Shizuma's next big rival. He's not.
Dude, that guy could be cut out of the manga and I wouldn't notice.
Yes, I have a feeling, and I don't know this for sure because he's not one that I noted. I think he's like from the light novel series or something like that, because he did not need to be there.
He must be. It's like a big emotional like comeback for him too in one of the final volume, and I'm like, I forgot he was here.
Exactly. I was like, wait, what? You're that dude who I thought was gonna be like Shizuma's big rival, but that was it. I don't know. Let me see. What do we have here? Oh yeah, the thing about building the ring for the ring for the match. Hold on, I want to read some of my notes before we.
Oh, I looked it up. You are right that it is Natsumi and not Tamaki. I don't know if they just.
Tamaki?
Tamaki is apparently a member of the journalism club. They might be one of the other broadcasters, but they're not the one doing the play-by-play.
Huh. Okay. I know. I think in the final volume, Natsumi goes off to go follow the Shinsengumi, and then maybe like there's another girl who's watching the Ryoko Shizuma fight. So maybe
I think you're confusing that girl. That's their captain, isn't it? The one who has her hair. Yeah, she. Some of the characters in this. I don't know if we should go back to recording. Some of the characters in the second half of the manga look vastly different from one panel to the next, because like
they do.
Like I'm not sure if somebody dropped some notes somewhere, but like that one girl, like I said, when she covers up her eyes, like she's one character, but when her face is totally uncovered, like her bangs are gone, it's like, who are you? Like the Clark Kent syndrome or something. And then that ninja girl, whenever she takes off her mask, I would keep forgetting what she looks like. She's completely different.
When her mask was off, I thought she was Ryoko for a second.
Exactly. But yeah, anyway, I have it in my notes. It's a funny visual joke where like Ryoko and Tatsuya are talking, and like Hitomi's like cut off by a cape, because like Shizuma's cape is flowing from another panel onto her, and she's all like, oh my god, where did I get this cape? And like that's actually in the thing. And then onto the far left of the panel, there's a little thing that says, oh, Azumi's over here, but you can't see her. Like
I like that. Yeah.
and I'm like, why include that? I wonder if they really drew it, then they realized and they were like putting it down. It's like, oh wait, this doesn't fit, kind of thing.
There were a lot of good background gags in this though. It's like art wise very good. One of the better ones we've read, and ones I've read in a long time. Really love the vibe.
I wanted to compare it a bit to Magic Knight Rayearth, because they both, especially by the second half of Bout High School, there's a lot of fight scenes that have a lot of like just action with no dialogue, just like Magic Knight Rayearth had. But I can see what's happening.
It's a lot more readable. Yeah, the action.
Yes.
Everything is just like framed very well, blocked really well. I really love aesthetically the whole thing. The outfits, like the fashion, everything, like the whole thing is just great. It is a joy to look at. I will say, reading the the digital ones, I think they're supposed to all have color pages at the beginning of the volume, right? As they typically do.
I have that in my notes too. I think because they just like took over the TokyoPop translations. I can only assume that because TokyoPop didn't do color pages, so they were just really dark and washed out.
Oh. Huh. I was like, oh, these like extra dark washed out pages look like they were supposed to be color pages.
Yeah, back in like nowadays, you would never do that. Like they would get so much flack online if somebody published a manga and just put the color pages in black and white. But that's what TokyoPop used to do for like ages. That's what everyone did too. I shouldn't just rag on them. That was just the industry standard then. If I remember correctly, when Del Rey, they were doing Kodansha before Kodansha did Kodansha. Del Rey was publishing some of the Kodansha stuff. That was one of their big draws, was that they were going to include the color pages for the first time, because some of their works were like they picked up where like TokyoPop or like some of the other early publishers didn't finish their runs because Kodansha is like, yeah, we don't want to deal with you. But yeah, so TokyoPop was really bad with, well, I don't know if you consider it bad, that was just what people did. I can go on a whole rant about like how I hated the pricing of manga back in the day. I remember because like growing up, I used to have a lot of places that sold the Japanese manga volumes. Obviously they're in Japanese, I can't read them, but even with like, I'm sure the markup of the yen, those volumes would still cost like $3 or $4 each. They had a dust jacket and they had color pages, but for some reason you go to the Barnes and Noble or Borders and you'd pay $10 for each volume, and they wouldn't have color pages. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just want to. But then again, in America we always had cheap anime because that's DVDs and stuff like that's always overpriced in Japan. But anyways.
So yes, we're going into volume 2, the fight between Shizuma and the teacher.
It's an expulsion match.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny because I assume this is like WWE status where like whoever loses has to leave the school, but no, because the teacher loses but he gets to stay.
Well, I think it was that if Shizuma lost, he was gonna be expelled, and that was kind of the thing. But it was like they're both fighting for like the one thing that they want, which is whether he gets to stay in school. Exactly.
He keeps fighting, but I'm like, whatever. There's the whole thing where I think that's when they first start hinting that Ryoko likes Shizuma.
I kind of got the vibe like they had like a whole meet cute at the gang fight in like the first chapter.
Yeah.
Well, because they went to go like they had food together, stuff like that. But I didn't get the vibe that they were like crushing on each other.
Not necessarily
that they were being set up for that.
Yeah, it felt like the way that manga normally sets that kind of thing up.
Oh, I like how you guys both think that, and I'm over here like, where did that come from? Like I was that reader. I was basically Ryoko. I was like, what are you guys talking about? She doesn't like it.
It might not be that I buy it. I'm just saying I can see where it's being set up.
Yeah.
I remember thinking even here, and this might be spoiling the end already because I'm bringing it up like this, but I remember even here, I was like, oh, they better not. They better not. They better
Did you
not.
already read this manual?
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. This is the perfect time to explain this. So, I don't know why I didn't mention this in my intro. One of the reasons I picked this manga, actually the only reason I picked this manga, was because I already mentioned that, this was really big, in my youth. I remember this was probably the first manga I ever fully read, as in from like the first volume to the end, because I'm that manga reader. I'm sure we all know this kind of person. I will not read it until it's done. Obviously, there's some exceptions, but for the most part, I will not read it till it's done.
There's a few that, if I'm kind of like skeptical, I'll wait. It depends. If I'm like really, really into it, then I'll start reading it and just like, fuck it. But,
and I remember reading in a magazine or somewhere, maybe it was even at going to a con, because I remember the very first time I saw this, I think it was when Anime Expo was in Disneyland, as in the Disneyland Hotel. And I remember hearing either it was coming out or something like that, and it was already done in Japan. So like this kind of turnaround was not that common, but it was like, it's already done. We're going to publish the whole thing. It'll all be done like in a year or something. And the anime will come around at the same time. I'm like, oh, I could just enjoy it. I could, before even binge watching and binge reading were things, I could do that then. That's pretty much what I did. I remember I bought the DVD somewhere. I acquired the manga somewhere. I was a young delinquent. Let's just leave it at that. And yeah, I remember I read it in one fell swoop, and it stuck with me. I read it like a couple times too. But this was literally 20 years ago. To say I forgot and if I remembered any of it, it would be a lie. But it just like it felt weirdly nostalgic to me whenever I would see it. I remember when I was selling all my manga like at one point, mainly for space, not even because I was just doing anything crazy. I was just selling all my manga one time. I would keep holding on to the series, and I still did eventually. Even when other series would go, I'm like, I don't want this Love Hina after all. I don't want this like this half-finished Sailor Moon after all. Besides, they reprinted that, blah blah blah. Like I don't want these, but I'm keeping Real Bout High School, and it wasn't my first, like but it was right up there. It's somewhere there. Who knows what my first like fully watched, fully read mangas were? But yeah, it's up there. But I forgot it all. This is all new to me, and I will say, and I meant to mention this in the first volume, I remember this being a lot more risque and ecchi than it is. Like I wouldn't call this all ages, except especially in the second half, but this definitely is like PG, not even barely PG-13.
Yeah.
It's just PG-13 for violence, and occasionally you can say bitchin' and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, it was, and it was nostalgia reading it again. I think in my brain I confused it a bit with Ikitosen, which is a slightly similar series, which is very ecchi. So I think that's
that makes more sense. I haven't read it or seen it, but I know it by reputation.
By the way, I would totally make us read that, but it's like 1 billion volumes might still be going on, because that's
Save
the
that
one
for reading the long way.
That's the one where it's the high school. It's basically this, but all the characters are Romance of the Three Kingdoms, like stand-ins.
Oh, that explains why Manuel likes it. Okay,
Yeah.
Something to do with China.
Yeah, and it's like, and then, but big titty anime girl versions. But yeah, so this is that. Ryoko is the big titty anime girl, but surprisingly, during her fights, there's very little like fan service. You could tell they're careful to like not give her a panty shot. I remember when Rumiko Takahashi was talking about, like, was giving an interview to like Animerica or something like that about Inuyasha, and she was saying that no matter how crazy the action gets, what's her name? Main girl, Kagome's skirt always stays down, even though it's short as hell. And it reminded me of that. I thought back and I'm like, this is that, because it's like she's basically doing flips in the air, but somehow like her skirt is always curved, or like hiding her panties. Not that you want to see it, but it's just almost weirdly physics defying how far they went out their way. It's like, why not just give her shorts, which they do later on. But anyway, he beats up the teacher, he wins, he doesn't get expelled. And I have this notes here. The principal gives a weird speech about God and the people.
Yeah, I got all like philosophical for a second, all sophomore year philosophy student.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? He has this whole speech about fighting and the God, and
I kind of love reading about the principal though. He's a great character.
Yeah, he is weird. But yeah, and then there's a bit of time skip there. That's what I mentioned. There's we get to meet Ryoko's aunt,
Madoka.
Who her name is Madoka, isn't it? Like, not Machika. Yeah.
It's a name, Manuel. People have names. That would be like you going up to someone who's like first name is Jerry. Says, oh, like Jerry Seinfeld from the TV. It's like, no, it's just a name. People have names, Manuel.
So that was funny because she has this, Ryoko has this dream that she's a nurse, and then she wakes up and she actually is in a nurse outfit. And she's confused, and it turns out that she had shown up really tired, I guess, from like practicing or whatever. And her aunt just like, oh, I'm gonna dress you up, which is really weird in general. But then I have this in my notes. At some point, she's like, high school girls are just fantastic. And I'm like, oh my god. She's like, I like how I'm referencing these characters whose names I don't remember. She's like that, like the live-in person from Evangelion. What's her name?
Misato.
Yeah, it's like Misato, like being weird. But yeah. Oh, and then she drinks with her aunt. There's actually a lot of casual teen drinking in this manga, which weirded me out.
Well, the economy's based on fighting, so they need something to take the edge off.
Yeah, spoiler alert, but later on, like, I think the teachers give them alcohol in the later chapter. But here, her aunt gives her alcohol, and the next day she's hungover. She fights this one dude who's been like hitting on her for months, and he's like, we don't have to fight, you can just go on a date with me. She's like, no, I'm gonna fight you. And then, yeah, she beats her up. And then I have it in my note that, side chapters with Hitomi are weird. We do get to see Hitomi's butt, though. What am I thinking? What are my notes?
Manuel, I've been asking myself that for years, and I still don't have an answer.
But yeah, there are some side chapters with Hitomi, and that's actually where you start getting, even though I kind of got the vibes, it's really these side chapters where it's like, wait, does she like her? Like her?
He does read that way to me.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure she does. Honestly, I got the same vibes from Daisaku at first, like when he was with Shizuma, but then obviously like he stopped hanging with Shizuma, and then he just gets clearly, weirdly in love with Ryoko.
I don't know that he wasn't the whole thing that he was like assigned to photograph Ryoko.
See, I actually, it's funny because we're getting up to that part. Like, I don't know if it was a sign, because in the next few things, she's doing a play with the drama club. Her and Tatsuya are, Ryoko is, and they're working on the play. And at some point, Daisaku steps out of a locker.
Yeah.
and admit that he's been taking pictures of her for like who knows how long. And then later on, when the play's done, and he hands everyone like a photo book he made of her, and it's all the most creepiest candid shots, mainly of her ass. And it's like, if he was assigned, he definitely went off schedule or whatever. He was doing his own thing for a while.
And he does it again in the last volume too.
Yes, but so creepily enough, he prints a photo book of like candid pictures. I do like the scene where she just picks them all. They're trash and throws them all away.
As she should.
Actually, sure, yeah, that's actually kind of creepy, and it's actually funny because like they imply that he's just been in that locker who knows how long. And by the way, they don't say it, but I think that's a changing room. That's like the backstage area. Like anyway, that's what I think the lockers are for. But yeah, we get to see Tatsuya's friend, another love rival, Shiori,
his childhood friend.
Yeah, his childhood friend, Shiori. And it's funny because for the longest time in my notes, I had Shori because I couldn't see the first eye because I fucking hate Comic Sans. I can't stand Comic Sans. Why do people use Comic Sans when they're for comics? I know that's what
it's not Comic Sans, but...
Is it not Comic Sans? It looks like Comic Sans to me, kind of. Are you sure?
It's a comic font and it is a sans serif, but it's not like that.
I just noticed. I have this random page open because I'm like pulled up the manga. On page 168, I think, of volume 1, they misspelled chaos.
There are a couple misspellings in here, I think.
They're just so random. I have this one random page open and I'm like, wait, they misspelled chaos there.
Like without the H, or
they switched the O and the A.
Oh.
But anyways, childhood friends with Tatsuya, Daisaku, blah blah blah. There it goes. They have a film club party with alcohol. But then like, it's weird because like Tatsuya and Ryoko have a lot of like moments, like especially from here onward, where it's
she's even introduced like having a crush on him. It's in the description, I think, in volume 1.
Yeah.
If not in the text as well.
Yeah, I mean, but like it seems a lot more direct from here. And she already fought Azumi over him. That wasn't even like subtle. Like they pretty much came out and said it. Like, and even everyone was like, "Oh my god!" And she even mentions it later on, like, he must know now because he knows that I fought her because I was jealous or whatever. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it's annoying how that turns up. In my opinion, not that I thought that it would like go anywhere. This is a manga. This is high school BS, but still,
this is about the point where it takes a big emotional turn for a minute, where you find out Tatsuya is transferring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He has that big speech with her and everything like that. I think that's why he has the heart-to-hearts with her and everything like that.
Yeah, because first he's like, he's pushing her really hard during like the sparring, during the kendo.
And it's funny because there's a point at the end of the chapter when he tells her that he's gonna like transfer because like they fight and it's like, oh good, I can leave you now that I feel like you're good enough, you're to stand on your own kind of thing, be a great woman, all that stuff. Tells her he's gonna transfer, but he had given a note to Shiori at the party. And we never see what that was. And I don't know, did he just tell her he was going to transfer too? Or did he was it a love note? Like they never say what that is. And that kind of bothers me because there's a lot of little scenes like that in the manga. Where
I could have sworn it was the note telling her to like meet up with him later when he does that stuff, when he both tells her that she's transferring or that he's transferring and that he confesses his feelings to her, which marks one of the few times a childhood friend gets the guy.
So yeah, that's weird because like, when he ends up talking to Azumi about it, and Azumi, by the way, steals a kiss because she punches him. I'm like, okay, she punches him at first. And then she's like, I'm going to hit you one more time. He's like, fine, just do it. And she kisses him. Part of me thought, they're going to be a thing now, like somehow. But no, he ends up confessing to Shiori everything. But what I wanted to say before I leave the Azumi thing is, he tells Azumi, basically, I'm sorry I led you two on, like you and Ryoko. More than even the guy getting the childhood girl or whatever the heck, I think it's weirder that the manga acknowledged that he was leading on the other two girls.
Well, I don't think he meant that he was doing it actively, just that because he didn't really answer them, that gave them some amount of hope that he should have just dashed first.
We all know, like, if you were like a high school boy and you had like two girls fawning over you and you liked another, you're probably like, I have my two fallbacks in case this one fails.
It does mention in the bio in the first volume that he's kind of oblivious to it.
I don't know, man. He got it towards the end.
I mean, sure, he's not completely blind to it, but he eventually figures it out. He puts two and two together and is like, I should apologize for what I accidentally did rather than something I actively did to them.
But yeah, because Tatsuya is leaving, Ryoko's skills go a little down. She ends up because she, like I said, she likes to defend the good of the school and get rid of all the ruffians and like the hoodlums and whatever. And there's this part where she doesn't know what she's gonna do and she's walking around all listless. I think she even left her sword behind. They show that a little aside, but she's walking.
Yeah, she drops it.
There's some kid getting beat up. He's getting robbed. And he's literally like, someone help me, please. She leaves it.
Well,
I'm
so in
sorry.
this point, she's like, she's at like her absolute lowest point in like insecurity.
I just
And
can't.
she's just feeling like she absolutely can't go on. She can't fight.
But that poor kid got robbed.
Yes, Manuel.
Yeah, I don't think that was meant to be played for laughs. But
I'm laughing. I thought that was
you-
hilarious. I'm like, that poor kid got robbed.
Manuel, I've
And
also seen the other things you laugh at. That doesn't make it. It's not a high bar.
She's right around the corner. He's like, somebody help me. And she like falls down. I'm like, oh my god, damn, that's terrible. They probably beat him up afterwards too. Also, they're all kind of getting ready to say bye to him or whatever. And there's this part where like I assume that's Tatsuya who calls Azumi. I don't.
I think it was, but it also wasn't entirely clear who actually called her.
Yeah, because even though I
yes,
meant
it was. Yes, it was
even
later.
though even though I mentioned the kissing thing, this is like when this happened before the kissing thing. Sorry. Okay, I had to look at my notes. So anyway, Azumi gets the call about Tatsuya. Dad's very like conservative, like not that kind of conservative, but just very like, no daughter of mine, boy, but boy's only one thing of one thing, kind of thing. And the mom's like, let him talk on the phone, let her talk on the phone or whatever. And he's like, no. Then she's crying or whatever, and he makes some weird line about like, are you pregnant? Did they get you pregnant? Like that. And then she mentions about like, I have this in my notes. She says, pull the car out. And I kid you not, when I was reading it, I thought that was a euphemism for getting pregnant. I was like, whoa. I was like, is that what they say? I'm like, did I just, okay.
I'm wondering how you thought that was a euphemism rather than a literal thing of just asking him to bring the car around.
Because it was right after. And I was like, oh, okay. And it wasn't until she was in the car. I was like, oh, she meant an actual car.
I do love that she brings her dad to this like fight and just watches.
Also, I have it in my notes about like, okay, why are those delinquents bullying a dog? That was some bullshit. Do you remember that? Do you remember that brief little scene?
Because they're delinquents.
But they're like, look at you, dog. You're so dirty. And I'm like, what are you doing? Don't bully the dog. Leave the dog alone.
Here it is. Yeah, let's give it a tattoo.
Yeah, I was like, that's fucked up. I'm like, okay.
Don't look so glum, Fido.
Yeah, that pissed me off. I think we have different translations, by the way, because TokyoPop to the Viz. That pisses me off. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, don't punk the dog. Ryoko, Azumi, the whole thing. I like how they have the line there about Musashi Miyamoto's show up late technique to the fight.
Mm-hmm. Once again, we were kind of mixing things up, or like the order of events up. But yes,
well, I shouldn't have said the kiss at all, because the kiss happens way later. So I feel like I already like ignore the kiss.
But yes, you're talking about the Ryoko versus Azumi fight, and she mentions how Miyamoto Musashi famously showed up like late and I believe drunk to his fight with, was it Sasaki Kojiro?
Yes, but you gotta love that becomes like a technique. That's just like what I do all the time. I'm gonna use that from now.
Yeah, Manuel, you were late to this recording almost.
I'm gonna use that all the time. I'm using the Musashi Miyamoto technique. I'm gonna show up drunk and late. You can't judge me. Next time I show up drunk and late to a panel, no one can judge me. But yeah, so Azumi beats up Ryoko. There's this whole thing where Tatsuya's watching the fight, but the principal doesn't want him to like interfere, so he lets him like, what's the word? I think at one point he's like sitting on him, but then Ryoko realizes that all of her fucked upness is because she doesn't cry. She doesn't know how to let out the emotions, I should say more accurately. And she keeps flashing back to like Hitomi, like basically teaching her to cry, I guess, or not teaching her to cry, but Hitomi basically like telling her that it's all right to cry, like I'm like a faucet. I have that in my notes. And so she goes in the bathroom and just like bawls, and then she's like, now I feel better.
Yeah, she needed the emotional release.
Yeah.
I guess the fight, I have it in my notes. I guess the fight was a draw in that first thing. I don't know.
I think she loses that fight.
Is it mentioned? And I like that there's a whole line about falling forward. It's like, even when she falls forward. That's what the principal says. And I've actually heard that like in reference to like it's like a Japanese saying in general, but it never dawned on me before. There's the whole line in Romeo and Juliet, very similar about falling forward and back, if you remember that. And it's not meant like as a good thing or whatever. It's meant about like, having sex or whatever. The only reason I remember that line so specifically is because the nurse says it, and it's a nurse here who's like talking to and whatever. I was like, I remember my 5th grade teacher told us about what that line meant, and I'm like, should she have been telling us that? Speaking of weird people, the nurse in this school is kind of weird too. I kept getting her confused because there's other nurses, and I thought, was her aunt a nurse?
No, I don't.
No,
think so.
it was no. Is a nurse,
Ryoko's
but not at the school.
Is a nurse. She's not a school nurse. She's a nurse at a hospital.
Oh,
the school nurse is the principal's niece.
Yeah. That's what was so confusing, because I'm like, wait, who? What? I'm like, wait, like, did she grow her hair long? Because Ryoko's aunt has short hair. But yeah, and now the Azumi Tatsuya kiss scene happens. Sorry. They kind of start like leading up to what's going to happen next. We get to meet the student body president, Isozaki, there really briefly. And then basically, this is when he meets up with Shiori. And this is days later, so for sure the note wasn't that. So I'm still like, what note did he send her at the fucking drunk party after the drama thing went well?
Hey, maybe he was just busy for a couple days and couldn't meet her.
I'll meet you on Thursday.
Maybe he had kendo practice. Maybe he had to go say goodbye to all of them, appoint Ryoko as the new captain, and then take care of family stuff. There are tons of reasons he could have needed a couple days. Maybe he just needed to work himself up to actually say it.
There was that whole thing too. They made a point of him, how he was like, they were like, why are you still taking your finals? You're leaving. And he's like, no, I still have to do this.
Yeah. By the way,
he still cared about his schoolwork.
Where is he transferring to? I don't know if you guys know this, but no, but I mean, like, where is he transferring to? Because he's a senior. This should be these finals should be final, and the school year ends in the winter. So I'm like, I mean, well, it ends in the spring technically, but you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't get it.
I forgot
like,
that he was a senior. That's pretty funny, actually.
I'm like,
I think it's like the last term of senior year that he's transferring.
No, but like, I don't think they don't.
I believe it's in December, so he's transferring in January. So he still has to do the final term, which ends in March, with how Japanese schools work.
Oh, I thought, well, it is Christmas time, I think, because it does kind of show a Christmas backdrop at one point. I guess that makes sense. I guess I'll let that go.
Because then it skips forward 3 months. It's the school year ending, and then like the rest of it is during spring break.
But yeah, there's the whole thing. I even have in my notes, Ryoko has a less kiss-heavy goodbye with Tatsuya. She doesn't get to kiss him. She also does the whole, like, I'll train harder to Azumi. And this isn't mentioned either, but Azumi is a senior too. I guess they kind of both fall off. Like, I thought they were going to disappear from the series totally at this point.
They basically do.
But yeah, Ryoko Shizuma, it ends with them having a little fight too. There's some Ashida no Joe references and so on.
I mean, they keep coming in the second half.
Jose Mendoza, I had to look that up. Did you look that up?
Yes, I also looked that up. He's the like final opponent in Ashida no Joe.
Yeah. Jose Mendoza. I don't know if you remember that from The Simpsons. Big Bane. Mendoza is like his main guy. Also, I wanted to point out before we move on to the whole next chapter, the author has like his little chapters at the end here. It's like, hope you're enjoying the story up to now. We're the halfway point.
Those are always fun.
Well, he mentions the Donnie Yen thing in there as well. But did you notice he mentioned liking Steven Seagal?
I didn't.
Yeah, he mentions liking Steven Seagal. And for those of you who don't know, I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds here. I'm not even going to talk into the fact that he's apparently a horrible person. That's not even what we're going to get into right now. Just you can look that up on your own. But the funny thing about it is there's been a whole movement recently, like similar to that one dude, Frank Dukes, who made up the whole thing about the Kumite. Like everyone's been examining the whole thing and people have worked with him on films, that Steven Seagal doesn't know martial arts. Like he just fakes it.
Oh, this Seagal fists? That part?
Yeah, he literally fakes it. He doesn't know anything. He just like runs, throws some really weird punches and like a lot of good editing, you know. I just thought that was funny that like he mentions like Steven Seagal and like his action movies and whatever. I'm like, bro, like watch him again.
Yeah, watch another action star.
Like bring up Jean-Claude Van Damme, bring up Street Fighter or something.
Yeah, and bring up Donnie Yen a lot, and then who was also really early on. Oh my god, who? Because this was like also related to what we just talked about. Oh, Kurosawa. Kurosawa comes up again.
Yeah.
Where?
She's seeing the Seven Samurai at like the start of chapter 1.
Yeah, Ryoko is seeing Seven Samurai 12 times.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I didn't mention. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't mention this at the start of the Tenmaku Cinema. Sorry, I didn't mention this during the recording of the Tenmaku Cinema episode, but I had it in my brain because I already read the first volume when we were recording that episode because we did that one kind of late. And in my brain, I was like, "Oh, I have the perfect way when I announce it because it opens with Seven Samurai," and I forgot.
It doesn't open with Seven Samurai. That comes a few chapters in.
Doesn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, it's volume 1, but it's a couple of chapters in because
I think
Tatsuya is also seeing the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And they talk about the movie. We didn't talk about that. They had a whole thing where it's like, Tatsuya is easy to talk to, which also implies that they didn't really talk before that. And then volume 4 starts a whole new arc, the Shinsengumi arc.
Yeah, so this is like this. We talked about this too, like me and Manuel privately. We talked about how this basically goes from rival schools to Street Fighter.
Yes, it's exactly what it does. It goes from rival schools. Even in my first notes, Street Fighter, Ikebukuro edition. See, I wrote Ikebukuro in my notes, and I'm like, this makes me in Tokyo?
Maybe Manuel really is that boomer.
But yeah, it's like, what the hell? For the record, because I pretty much just say it now, the whole first half of the manga is so different than the second half. But if you ever watch the anime, it's only based on the first half of the manga. I won't spoil what point it ends. It doesn't end in the same way, but it's only based on the first half, and there's some differences. If you might remember at one point when Ryoko was having her like down on herself moment after the whole Tatsuya moving away thing, she falls in front of a shrine and she looks up and she sees that girl and she's like, I feel like I've been here before. Did you guys notice that little
Mhm.
Okay, that shrine and that girl's a character in the anime, and her uncle, relation of hers, an older guy, is the one that trained Ryoko.
Huh.
That's only in the anime, and I just found that funny that they showed that. By the way, I do remember the anime a lot more than I remember the manga. I guess it's just the nature of anime, and I think I watched it a little more recently too. But yeah, I'm like, did she not train there in the manga? Is it that much of a different universe? Because like, is that what she's remembering before she passes out? I don't know, whatever. Also, this whole second half of the thing, the Shinsengumi arc, it takes place over like a couple weeks. Did you guys notice that?
Yeah.
Yes, Manuel.
It's a lot faster. It's probably a couple.
It's
probably
crazy to me that you say the anime only adapted the first half, because the second half is like what shonen has become in like
Yes.
what gets adapted into anime.
Well, it's my understanding, and I'm not 100% sure on this because I can't read all the light novels. It's my understanding that this second half is more representative of what the light novels were like. Because there's even a line or a reference in the author aside from the last chapter where he talks about the divide in the fandom. And I think part of it was because how high school romancy the first half was. And basically all the anime. And I think that he's like, oh, well, let's make it more about like the fights and like more Dragon Ball-ish with like almost power levels and like silly, like, you know, everyone calls out move names.
Yeah, we do get some like full page, all bold like move titles. I wrote a couple of them down.
Yeah, I literally have this in my notes. Remember the Street Fighters from the Street Vipers from the first volume? I guess they're back, but a lot less.
But a lot less.
Yes, a lot less. I won't use the word that I used there, but yeah.
Manuel, it's better than not see that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we got Taiho and Kunugi. Sorry, like I cannot say his name right. I like how in my notes, Taiho licks the bottom of food containers. Kunugi says he'll get worms. That was the most important thing from that part of that chapter, I guess. I remember this one a lot more because this is I mentioned this before we started recording. I reread this entire second half again because the first one I kind of already, as I was reading it, I kind of remembered it more because like once again, the anime goes in different directions, a lot of it, but a lot of it's 1-to-1 ish. So I'm like, oh, I remember most of this. But this second half, and there's so many characters in the second half.
Yeah.
There are so many really cool characters, but I wish we got more time with some of them.
Same.
Yeah, this is a different manga. This is subtly like it's a different manga entirely that just happens to have Ryoko.
Yeah, it does make me wish we spent less time with some of the high school characters, or alternatively that they had just like gone on. Like, don't show us these really cool characters and don't develop them, you know? Like, let us just stick with the high schoolers at that point, or give us more of these.
Yeah, either that, or I thought we like pick up here after like volume 1 is just the introduction. It's like, okay, here's what the actual like main plot is going forward for the rest of the manga.
Yeah, let it be like combine the two.
Yeah, like here's the school, here's how the fights work, and here's how that's going to expand into this, and here's how it ends.
Because yeah, this gets really weird and almost dark and very like big scope, big picture. Like this goes like about the city, and obviously they don't get this in depth because they just don't have the time, I guess. But they talk about their high schools, they talk about the local gangs, they mention mob families. This is crazy. This is like,
where
what?
It really starts to feel like the actual economy is based on fighting.
Exactly. No, and like once again, like I said, I'm pretty sure I think this was an attempt to be like, okay, fine, I guess we'll give the light novel people what they want. It's also my understanding that a lot of the side characters, like the villains, especially like the villains that barely get mentioned, most of those come from the light novel in some way. Or
Yeah, because
connect
we
with
have
the light
villains
novel.
we get like a glimpse of in like a see you next arc type of deal.
Yeah, probably because we'll forget to mention them. Yeah, there's a lot of villains that they almost are leading up to like, don't worry, we'll talk about them later. And they never do because this doesn't go on for a million more volumes. But I think the thing was like, oh, they're from the light novel. Like you would know that if you were like reading the light novels. Only because I dug up some old posts about this. I'm like, oh, okay. And there was an old wiki I had to like archive, you know, yeah. But Taiho and Kunugi, Taiho is like a boxer. It's funny because in my notes, because like it was so hard to keep track of these names because they didn't do the fucking name thing like they did in the first couple volumes. You're just on your own here.
Well, I mean,
like
a couple chapters with his name in it too, though, at least in like the final volumes.
So yeah, I was just like, there's a part where Kanugi calls him Rocco, and I'm like, oh, is your name Rocco? I'm like, no, that's just a Rocky reference. I'm stupid.
Yeah, it's just a Rocky reference because he's a boxer.
In mine, it actually says Rocky.
See, mine says Rocco.
They're making like a whole page of movie references when that happens.
I have a feeling like I think the Viz translators probably did translate all of them differently. Anyway, I have this in my notes. Ryoko
Oh, you know what, Manuel? It might be that he calls him Rock, which is what Mickey calls Rocky.
Oh, yeah.
And so they just translate it as Rocky. And the other one translated as Rocco because it'd be written as like Rocco or Raku.
Yeah. I have this in my thing. Ryoko's shirt says boo. And the big reason I wrote that, because I thought it said boob at first. And I thought that would be really funny if it said boob, but it didn't. It says boo, which is also weird.
I like the boo shirt. I like all like Anytime someone has like a shirt with like some words on it, it's always such a good design. Like I just always am looking so much at the fashion in this.
I also want to point out like something, and it's relevant to what we said about the skull like not being shown. I kept forgetting this, and I had to put it in my notes. I have it written briefly at the beginning, and I have it written at the very end. Because I kept asking, remember when this is about a school? It's in my notes. At the very end, I remembered this all takes place during spring break.
Yes.
So that explains why everyone's in normal clothes. Ryoko does not wear her uniform. She has like most of the time she's wearing like shorts and like a cleavagey top. I only say that because suddenly they also decide we're gonna have a lot more fan service from here on. It's almost disappointing. And I remember this specifically. I should pull it up. Volume 5 and 6 are rated older teen, which is kind of like a very high PG-13 rating, where it's like, oh, they can show some nudity here and there. There is some nudity, but like I don't know. It felt like almost disappointing. It got lewd after a while. I was almost getting used to it, and I'm like, oh, I guess all that was just Ikitosen. I'm glad this is, it's refreshing to not have like ass and titties every other page, but that's pretty much what we get towards the end.
So yes, like after Tatsuya leaves and all of the stuff in the previous volumes, Ryoko basically goes on like the anti-bully vigilante train.
Yep.
And gets roped into a new group that's being brought in to deal with them that calls themselves the Shinsengumi.
Yeah, the student council president, who it turns out is a series of Nurse Joy-esque.
Yes.
There were some good gags with how they all look the same.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, and because in the manga, or this translation I have, they imply that some of them are older, one's older and younger. But I looked it up just to be sure. They're meant to be triplets. I think it's just a weird translation in the one I read.
Still older and younger triplets.
Yeah, but I mean, like, and apparently they all just take turns being the president. So yeah, the Nurse Joys. Like, I don't know if anyone knows they're doing that. There's a couple gags where like Ryoko or someone, they think they're talking to Isozaki, but it's actually Ichiro, the older one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Isozaki has a plot with 2 other high schools. They're gonna create like
like the Alliance of Student Bodies or something like that.
Yeah, and they're gonna like defeat evil. Their main goal is they're going to beat up Shizuma because apparently he's the source of all evil within the schools, but they're also going to eventually beat up like just evil in the city, and by having like a 5-on-5 match at some point.
I think taking Shizuma down is more just symbolic, since he is almost unquestionably the strongest of like the ruffians at any of the schools.
So it's this idea that like because he's like winning all these fights and like such a like popular presence, that he's sort of like egging them on. He's sort of like influencing the culture of street fights.
Yeah. K-Fight Revolution. They mentioned that at one point. Also, during this whole like offer of like joining the Shinsengumi, she's dressed as a maid because like when she shows up there, she like takes a shower for some reason, and like they take her clothes away and they give her a maid outfit because like his like staff thinks she's the new maid they hired.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my god, they're doing every trope.
Actually, I think it's because she's dirty and
because she fought,
training. Yeah, she's been like training and fighting.
But still, it's like, who takes a shower at a stranger's house?
I think one of them suggest she do it just so she's more presentable.
I would just be stinky. Just like,
Manuel, you do that all the time, and that's nothing different. Like what you would do in a situation is almost completely inapplicable to any other person.
Oh man!
So we meet the Shinsengumi.
Yes.
These are all really cool characters who we barely ever get to know anything about, unfortunately.
Hold on. Well, first of all, Shizuma has his first fight with Taiho. In my notes, I put Worm Stomach because I forgot his name already, even though I did write Taiho at one point. And then I put Rocco in question marks. And I have my notes here. This is when the first fight gets really big. I put DBZ style moves.
Yeah.
And Shizuma wins. Other guy makes a Donnie Yen reference. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But yeah, the 3 high schools, Daemon, Kita, and Hoka. We never see the other 2 student body presidents again, by the way. I kept thinking they'd show up again, but they don't.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that they did briefly.
And then we get to see them. I have it in my notes later on who exactly they are, but just real fast. Xiaoxing's the Chinese one. And no, I didn't just mention her first because, because she's the Chinese one. They show her first.
She's the one they spell the worst in the final volume.
Xiaoxing or whatever.
Show.
Yeah, Xiaoxing. I forgot. Yeah, which I can only assume that they caught it, and whoever translated the last one probably didn't know that was meant to be Xiaoxing. She has to bind 300 people before she can go back to China.
That barely comes up.
Well, it comes up here and at the end.
Yeah.
She's making progress.
They do that thing where they write her dialect differently because she has like an accent. Her Japanese isn't as good. They do the same thing for Shizuma, which we didn't mention, that he also has like an accent, and they write his.
Yeah, because he's from Osaka.
It.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ironically enough, like him and Tati, I guess, changed places because he is Osakan. Yeah, he has the Osakan dialect, and I don't think that they did the annoying. Thank God they did it. But for those who don't remember old school anime days, whenever somebody had an Osakan accent, they give him a Southern accent in the U.S. That was the beam back in. If you ever watch old dubs from like the 2000s.
Oh, that's what they did for Shizuma.
Oh, how'd you know this?
It's like very obvious in the manga the way it's written.
Really? I didn't
He
know
says
this.
like, "Let me get them guys."
Okay, well, I must have missed it.
Yeah, it's not as like strong and obvious as other cases, but it is at least there.
To be fair, maybe in the Viz, because we might be reading different translations here, so maybe the Viz one leaned more into it because I didn't grasp that. It's funny because I was just about to say, thank God they didn't do that here, but apparently they did.
I mean, it's part of the localization thing we're talking about and how like the connotations of a Kansai Ben to someone from Tokyo. I think it shares some things. There's also the Boston or New York accent that can fit just as well, especially when it's dealing with like tough guys.
Yeah.
Thank God they give us a whole thing where they kind of show all their names, because I wouldn't have known them otherwise. So we'll just
I
stay
actually
them now.
mixed some of them up at first when they were getting introduced, and then later I was like,
God. Yeah, I was actually really worried about that. I'm like, oh my God, they're not showing the names at the start of the volumes. How am I ever going to learn them all? But yeah, Megumi Momoe, she's the wrestler. Well, I don't think we know this yet, but she's a wrestler.
You kind of get it from her design that she's some kind of like brawler. She's a but yeah, she does say pretty soon that she's a wrestler. We have Xiaoxing the yo-yo.
Already talked about her.
The Chinese
Asuka,
one.
Kuronari, the ninja.
The clumsy ninja who blows everything up.
They keep calling her a terrorist, which is funny because if you don't like, you might be like, oh man, that's weird. This was a pre 9/11 2001, I think, when this was first released. So I'm like, whoa, I don't think that they would go that route. Actually, yeah, I think it was. Actually, now I think about it, I'm pretty sure the manga came out after.
The
I don't
manga
know.
ran until 2003, so this would have been.
I was about to say
we're in the second half here, so.
Because when I remember when the last volume came out, it was around 2003 or 4. So never mind. That was just a weird time that was just a word that people use way too much back then. Anyway, but they keep, because she has bombs. And then there's Aoi Asahina, who, by the way, when they show her, she just says takoyaki. Did you guys notice that?
I didn't.
When they each introduce themselves, they all kind of have the little like things. She's just like takoyaki, and I'm like, is that a reference? Is she saying something that they translated wrong? And I'm just like,
I think she just really likes the food because I think she mentions that when they're getting food in a different chapter as well.
Well, anyways, we don't know anything really about her at this point, but she's another sword fighting person, kind of like Ryoko's better almost.
Yeah, and then we have
Midori, the one I keep forgetting about.
Yeah, the one who doesn't really do it. She's like the dispatch. She's HQ. She's the one who almost had the fight and was gonna die.
Yeah. And then I have it in my notes there because they start having I think they have a team building exercise. There might be an extra chapter. I don't know if it was a real chapter or not. But I'm like, what the fuck? This manga is doing tropes now. Bathhouse.
Where they fight the zombies?
Oh, I didn't even do the zombie thing. I think if you remember, I already moved on. I forgot. So yeah, they're beating up the Street Vipers again, I think. If they mentioned the Vipers at one point, I'm not sure if these are still the Street Vipers or they're just a gang. It doesn't matter. They're people. They beat up people. And at some point, they become zombies.
And then they talk like, they're like, oh, our gang is the zombies or whatever.
Yes. I'm like, wait, what? Is this like the Warriors where like there's like themed gangs?
Let's see. Oh, so wait, after the introduction of the Shinsengumi is actually where we get that fight you were talking about with the Fang of Impact and all the the big get my mojo flowing like lava. All these like full page texts. It's actually really great though. And I think the zombies is after this. Infernal Tiger.
I have it in my thing.
I think I'm out of moves.
Okay.
Taiho is a boxer who has his own Mickey because they have like I think that's when Kanuki's still like helping him train or whatever the fuck. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh no! A guy came to talk to him. He's like, "Why are you in a gang?" It's basically the scene from Rocky 1 where Mickey is like upset that Rocky's like working for like the mob or whatever. If you've never seen that movie, there's a scene like that, and that scene with Taiho and his like I guess his boxing coach or whatever is like very similar. It probably is 1-to-1 if like in the Japanese translation, I'm sure, to like the Japanese dub of Rocky or something like that. But like he comes in, he's like, "You're better than this, you know, you could be a champion," you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but he has his own Mickey, and there's a weird scene where like Kanuki's like sleeping at his house, and I'm like, wait, are they? And I know you don't have to do that, but it just like, and they even talk about bathing together and everything like that. I'm like, whoa, what? What's going on here?
I think Japan's a bit more lax about that Especially
it
depending
just-
if in public bathhouses too.
It just seemed weird. But yeah, there's a small little like time skip. Once again, not too long because the six place over like a course of like 2 weeks. But there's a little time skip where they mentioned how like in 3 days they've gotten to so many fights, like clearing out the city. Like they actually named the number of fights, not name, but they record how many fights it is. Like 7 fights for Ryoko, 8 fights for whoever, and so on.
Yeah. And it's that mostly Ryoko's been doing it.
Yeah, it's like they get into fights. Some of the fights they start, some of the fights are started against them, and some they're just hired to go be bodyguards, essentially.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, they're really active. It's funny, too. Like, we kind of glanced over it, but Ryoko didn't really seem like she cared to join Shinsengumi at first, and then she just joins them. And, like, I know that they kind of give the whole thing where she's trying to become a better woman and, whatever the heck, they're still going on about that. But I feel like her decision to join them just kind of just happened.
A lot of the characterization in the second half is weaker, for sure.
Yeah, it's almost like they were like, okay, guys, we need to rush this. We cannot have a whole a whole chapter where Ryoko goes back and forth. She has to just join.
I think it's also she figured out that like what she wanted to do was protect people, and this was a group that was going to do that. Like she didn't want the strong to prey on the weak, and so she was going to be the strong person who kept them from doing that.
But yeah, and then we get introduced to Team. They only call them Team Mauser this one time, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, these were who I thought were the new Vipers until they said Mauser.
Yeah, but they never say that again, by the way, as far as I remember. They call him Team Mauser, and these are kind of going to be like the villains that they're setting up against. And the main bad guy this time around is a guy named G.
An old man. It stands for cramps, right?
It stands for cramps. But it's a guy named G. He's trying to recruit Shizuma to like be part of his team because he has to assemble like the 5-member team to fight the other 5-member team. We also didn't mention this earlier, but like the other student council presidents were all like, hey, why are they all women? Are you like a weirdo or something like that to Isozaki? He's like, no, it's like, first of all, these are the best fighters, but second of all, like imagine what's the word I'm looking for? The
psychological impact.
Exactly, about being beat up by a woman.
Yeah. What was it? Was it Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide or something where the main character is getting in a fight with like a girl and he's like, you can't hit a woman, but then you also can't lose because then you got beat up by a girl. It's just like that's what I was thinking when I read this.
It's funny because in my head I was like, I get it, I get that, and they have mentioned that here and there like throughout the series before, but that never seemed to stop anyone, especially Shizuma.
He just wants to fight the strongest. He doesn't care who it is.
Yeah, equal rights and lefts, Anyways, how are we like? We don't know exactly why she's doing this yet, but she's hanging out at an orphanage, I guess like at a church, and she knows a nun. And then like there's a scene where Ryoko's like I guess helping like teach these kids at the church to fight. And apparently they kind of retcon this, but Aoi says that's when she learned to fight was at the church. Like the priest taught them how to fight. And I'm like, what kind of church is this?
I don't know, Manuel. There's a church that started a fight club. I'm not saying anything now.
Then the kid hits her in the boob, and I'm like, oh my god, he hit her in the boob. And I wrote that in my notes immediately. But then that becomes a running joke, like, here on. They're like, Miss Utters or whatever they call her, something like that. But anyway, Aoi and Ryoko, they fight. I have it in my notes. I guess Azumi graduated, but I guess we're still on the spring break. So I guess she's just like, she doesn't matter.
She's still around. Maybe she's just going to college in town.
Why did they pick her for this team?
Well, because then they couldn't introduce her as a new character. Think about the merch.
Yeah, I have it in my notes there. They're building a team. Taiho Hashi, Kyoichi Kunugi, Shizuma Kusanagi, I guess G, and I do not have his name. I don't know who the hell that guy is. The guy who like is wearing, it looks like he has a priest collar on. It looks like a cross. The guy who fights with like that vibrating sword looking thing. He's like G's friend. Who mentions that like
I don't even remember this guy.
Yeah, he's the 5th member of the team. They start showing him already, but I'm like, I feel like they did not develop the second team very well.
They didn't.
I was so confused the whole time who the 5 were, and I'm like, when are we gonna meet the 5th? And then eventually, when they do show them, I'm like, oh, I guess that guy was always the 5th. They just never. I swear they never said his name. I could not find it. I was keeping an eye out for the second time I read it. Did not see it.
I honestly completely forgot that guy existed as well.
I said, I think the writers forgot about it too because they gave him the quickest fight ever against Shizuma at the end, as if like they were like, oh shoot, we didn't wrap up his arc. But yeah, Aoi and Ryoko are kind of like, the new Azumi and Ryoko type thing going on here. Shizuma joins the other team, kinda? He never really joins them.
Yeah, he's not really into it. He just wants to fight. And they have like an ulterior motive, and he's like, why? I just want to punch people.
I like how so they have the whole fight laid out. They even named the date, March 21st. They're going to fight at this amusement park that the Isozaki family owns. What is it called?
Dragonland.
Dinosaur Land? Oh, Dragonland.
Dinosaur Land?
I have it in my notes. SCP asked her to stop hunting down hoodlums in the meantime. I'm like, I didn't realize so afterwards.
Student Council President.
For student yes, SCP.
Secure, Contain, Protect.
School of Continued Progress.
Exactly.
For people watching our D&D campaign.
Oh my god. Okay, this volume ends weird.
Where's the weird ending you're talking about?
Where they fight Asuka. They fight Asuka, and they're like filming it and everything. And then like, okay, I have a feeling, and I'll get there eventually. I won't spoil like how they retcon this later if you even caught that. That I think they realized they went a little too far in the next couple chapters, and like way later on, they basically act as if this was all different. But it's weird.
They imply they're gonna kill her. First of all,
They imply far more than that. Let's just leave it at that.
Before the rest of it, the beginning is they imply they're gonna kill her
because they beat her up, they tie her up.
To another scene.
They're filming it. One of the film guys even mentions how I wouldn't mind if this became a skin flick or whatever. And when they show Asuka, like when everyone else is gonna come, like when Xiaoxing and Momoe are gonna come rescue her, she has her shirt ripped open, and it's like, what happened to her? You know. There's even a line later on, not to jump too far ahead, before they retcon the whole thing, where Asuka and Xiaoxing talk later on. And by the way, the second volume opens with the same thing happening to Xiaoxing, by the way, where Asuka's like, when they're going to fight they're going to fight Kunugi, the guy who seems so happy-go-lucky until this point, like I thought he'd be the nice guy. He's like the evilest one.
Yeah, his characterization is extremely inconsistent and odd. Okay. Kind of hard to follow.
Honestly, he's worse than G in my opinion. He is the evil one. All of this is him, even though G's like doing, I guess, the commanding.
Yeah, so G, his whole thing is kind of just reinforcing my point that the economy is based on fights. He's just a guy who wants to make money off of people fighting.
But Kunugi over here,
and there's the people who want to make money off the gambling on the fighting.
Yeah,
like. Until they retcon it, he is like assaulting these girls in ways that go beyond just the fighting, no matter how you look at it. How far it goes, who knows? But it's just like, whoa, what the hell is happening here? Well, anyways, later on when Asuka and Xiaoxing are going to fight Kunugi, there's even a line where Asuka's like, he was inside you too. And I'm like, whoa, they admitted it. And I still think they kind of did. And like, they realized they should pull back. Yeah, because Asuka goes to fight him later on. And then like Xiaoxing joins in. She's like, no, I want him too. And then she's like, oh, he was inside you too. I forgot. And I'm like, whoa. Everyone stop. And I only mention that because it gets weird here. And I'm just like... So yeah, Kunugi basically like whoops everyone's ass. Apparently he's like a ninja too, like literally.
I just want to talk about something funny.
What?
When I saw this originally, for some reason I didn't connect that it was Kunugi the first time. So when I saw it under the mask, I thought it was Daisaku again. It's like, oh, so that's why he's so sneaky.
Well, it's funny because at one point, like I think I even did my notes too, like is Daisaku a ninja? Because they mentioned that earlier too as a joke. And like I'm not gonna lie too, I don't know if it was that point, but I did think that Daisaku was gonna have a Jar Jar Binks type like twist turn at the end or something out of nowhere. Also, at the end of that same volume, Hitomi shows up because like Ryoko's gonna fight G. Yeah, and she beats him up, and you're like, oh, she's better than G. Of course she is. And then Hitomi shows up, and it's like, oh, what are you doing here? It's like, oh, I came to like make sure you're okay. It's like we don't know that somebody called her yet, and she's like, oh, but let's go, like go do something. We'll go have a good time now. And then G comes up, and is like, I called her. Basically, starts threatening Hitomi, and they never explain what happens there. Presumably he just lets them all go because nothing actually happens there. I was like, did he kidnap Hitomi? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, he definitely grabs or punches her.
Yeah, I assumed he was just using her as a human shield to get Ryoko to give up.
But yeah, so the next chapter begins, like I said, like there's the whole, like, I don't know where the hell Aoi's during all this. I guess she's at the church. But like Momoe and Xiaoxing are trying to like, help Asuka. They get beat up too. Well, Xiaoxing gets beat up pretty bad. There's the point where the camera guy's like lifting up her face and like, like smile for the camera. And I'm like, what the hell is this? What is this chapter? And we also don't see how they turn out because it kind of just stops. And it's just like, where'd the girls go? They disappeared, remember? Like for like a few pages, everyone's wondering what's going to happen. The fight's going to happen. It's like, it's a couple days away. Hitomi's around. And like at one point they're like, oh, you know where Ryoko is? And it's like, yeah, but And it's like, what's going to happen if they don't show up? And it's like Isozaki and Midori are going to have to fight or something. And I'm like, okay, I would have loved to see that, by the way. The school starts spreading rumors about what happened to them all.
People talk when they have no information to go on.
Like me, like I was so confused, and like they left it weird in a weird way. Okay, I'm gonna spoil it right now. Nothing happened to them. They were training and they just show up. Okay,
it's like in a Rocky movie. You're defeated, demoralized. You just go off into the wilderness and train.
I think and they do kind of show most of this through flashback. What we missed. I think it's weird they didn't show it here, and I think it's even weirder that we don't know how those other scenes ended. Like you said, I guess G's all like, I'm gonna go now, but know that I can kill Hitomi when I want. But how did the thing end against Asuka and Xiaoxing and Momoe? Like, yeah, he was there with the camera crew. The camera crew was clearly trying, like, we're being very lewd. And I'm like, did he just leave them? Did he leave them when they were done? Because that's kind of what Asuka implied later on. But I'm just like, it's weird. But yeah. I have it in my notes. The announcer girl, whose name, what do we
Natsumi.
remember?
That's me.
Natsumi is pissed because people have been fighting without letting her
Yes.
commentate.
Exactly. Azumi shows up again, like briefly. The principal gets shown again. It's like as if they're kind of like, oh yeah, we forgot about all these people.
He's mad too because he's like, hey, if you're gonna fight, why not do it where I can watch?
But yeah, so the fight's gonna begin. The student body is like, well, I put the student body because it's like it's the announcer girl. It's like the people who are filming it for like the
It really
actual.
feels like they just like stuffed the entire school in like a van to drive to the amusement
Yes.
park.
And then there's even and then the nurse is driving and there's like lines there where it's all like, we're over the limit. And there's a part where they let everyone out the car when they get there. And it's like a clown car because like there's like 5 people outside of it, but you see there's still a ton of people still in there.
Yeah, I've heard stories of people stuffing 20 people in an Honda Odyssey. I'll believe that.
I was about to say, like, what the hell? And they never quite explained this because they've already mentioned it here and there, and obviously we mentioned it. But apparently, the people that G's working for, who are like evil personified, type people, like big corporate evil, not only have like a betting rig thing for this fight, but they're also selling the tapes to like, I don't know, like people who like this. Yeah, but like
People, the consumers of the fight economy. We've been over this, Manuel.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, I was like, apparently there's a whole thing for this underground tapes to be sold.
This is literally the same plot of Street Fighter 6. Everybody fights, and it's how the entire society is running.
No, it's like they're fighting in the fish market. It's like, I don't like you. You want to fight? It's like, yeah. Want to come back tonight? It's like, no. I want to fight you now during normal business hours. They rush to the school, like, because they want to film too. And there's this whole plot going back and forth that, like, where they keep finding the cameras that the evil people have set up. And I'm like, bro, this is Isuzaki's like park. Why did he let them set up cameras there? But that aren't his. But whatever. The plot gets really weird. This is where it starts moving really fast, I think. Like, it's easy to lose a ton of things.
So the first fight is against Taiho, which Megumi takes on solo.
To this point, when they reveal that the fights don't have to be one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But they keep making them one-on-one anyway for the sake of because.
The dwindling party.
This is the only fight that has, like, how do I say this? That's like the way that you think the match is gonna go. Like, it has like a judge. They have like a clear winner. Everyone's watching it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, after this they lose the sort of tournament structure and it becomes more of a loose good guys versus bad guys. We gotta go fight them.
But yeah, I have it in there. Like, oh, great woman thing. Oh, and the great pompadour. Because like we haven't mentioned that, but there's all these references to Taiho's hair.
Yeah,
that he has like a crazy pompadour kind of thing going on. And Momoi shows up in full like wrestling outfit. She has like a wrestling leotard looking thing going on, which I'd love to see in color. I just want to know what color she was wearing. I'd probably look it up. I'm pretty sure there's color pages of it. But yeah, she fights. She gets beat up pretty good, but she like takes him out like in a German suplex, which is a pretty basic move, by the way. Do I even have that in my notes? Because I just remember that on my own. I'm like, oh, come on. I guess it looks flashy when you draw it, but I'm like, But what I found funny is that it looks like he still won, in my opinion. And even the judge is all like, like, oh, because he kind of gets up. He seems fine. And she like passes out. And like the judge is like a clown.
Yeah,
I like the judge.
Like he is actually dressed as a clown.
Yeah, he's a clown.
He is a silly person or like someone that they underestimate.
Yeah, it's like he's dressed like a clown, and he's like, oh, well, he's giving the fight to Taiho. And Taiho's like, no, she won the fight.
Well, he has to be okay because he's gonna fight Suzuma in a couple pages.
Okay, I want to get there in a second, but the clown gives Ryoko a wristband that dignifies like a point.
Oh, this never comes up again.
Yes, that pissed me off. They go on like panels explaining the system of how they're gonna
Unlike
win.
other things, though, I clocked it as soon as I saw it. I was like, that's not coming up again. I
was like, not only does that come up again, like as far as I know, like maybe he's in the background, we never see that clown again. None of this matters. But they stop everything, they give her the thing, they explain that there's a rank system. You get one for each fight you win, and whoever has the more points, blah, blah. None of it matters. Forget about it. It doesn't exist.
So yes, they then leave Momoi behind because she says she needs to rest and head to, is it the Castle Siege area?
Yeah, but then when she leaves them behind, Momoi and like Taiho start like falling in love. In the most random way. We get a bit of a backstory from Taiho there as he's like there. And this is when we see the whole thing about them betting. But Momoi and Taiho are like, will they, won't they? And Momoi kind of likes him. And I'm like, what the hell is... They get beat up. It's like, oh, I love you,
That's how this series works, apparently, Manuel.
Yeah, because it starts with a little like, I'll throw one punch and it holds all my respect for you or whatever.
But yeah, they go into the Crusade Castle, and this is where it is as well. Where like I have it in my notes. It's like, you felt him inside as well? And I'm like, what?
Oh, that's what I thought it meant. You could just like sense that he was here because of what he's done to us, or just their connection at this point.
Exactly. So I guess I can go either way. Now that I haven't written it direct wording, but it's still weird, especially after what we saw. And that's definitely implied. And I'm just going to cut to the chase now. This fight has very little form to it. It gets quickly revealed that Kunugi can like create illusions.
Oh my god, yeah, it turns out he's a wizard.
Yes, like legit create illusions. Like very early on, there's an explosion, and like Asuka thinks Xiaoxing is dead, and that's actually a pretty like graphic drawing of her dead, like just like blank eyes, like blood everywhere. It turns out no, she's still alive, and then like Xiaoxing's able to fight against it a bit. But then, did you catch the lines where they say that none of that happened to them earlier?
No.
Yes.
Hold on.
Where they mentioned like that those were illusions, and that's how Asuka got beat up, and that's how Xiaoxing got beat up, and everything like that. And I'm like, obviously people were filming them, but apparently like that was the worst that happened. And part of me is like, I don't think that that's what they were implying before. Mind you, this isn't a monthly magazine. This manga ran in, so we're talking like the difference of like this is probably like 5-6 months later from that chapter, or 3 or 4 months later, I should say more accurately. So it's probably like, guys, fans are like, what the fuck? Retcon that.
I thought he was just talking about the things they had seen inside the castle that had been dangerous to them, because they'd seen like ghosts and things, other spooky things.
Well, for the record, I did look it up. Once again, I'm talking about like people arguing about this on a 2006 message board, but there seemed to be the consensus as well that like everyone's like, oh, they retconned it. I don't know if that's true, and I can judge it as you will. I mean, I prefer that than that the horrible, like, let's be realistic of what that scene was implying. But yeah, does this fight even have a form where they're all fighting Kunugi? And I'm like, it goes on for a lot longer, but it's like always broken up to different stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, that fight of Shizuma versus Taiho is also going on.
Oh yeah, thanks for bringing this up.
Stuff gets weirder too.
It does. Did you also notice that Taiho clearly was like pulling out all the stops against Shizuma that he was not doing against Momoe?
No, I don't think that like occurred to me.
I think it's just because they're also two like very similar style opponents rather than a boxer versus a grappler.
Like, I thought suddenly, like, he got more powerful. And I know they even kind of imply this, like, oh, like, this is, like, almost, like, RPG logic, where, like, he leveled up after he fought Momoe or something like that. Because they mentioned that for Ryoko a couple times. But I'm like, how is he suddenly, like, why didn't he use that move against Momoe earlier? He could have killed her or something, you know? I don't know. I just
because he held all of his respect for her in one punch.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even mention that.
Also probably because he just needed them to lose and to forfeit, but he probably not pulling punches like you say against Shizuma. Also, it's also giving a whole lot more Ashita no Joe vibes in this fight than I think any other one in the series, with all the cross counters going out.
I have this in my line because like they're all running to Ryoko and like think she's with Aoi at this point. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. They're running to go like help Momoe and I'm not Momoe to go help Xiaoxing and Asuka. And Ryoko keeps seeing the cameras, and there's even some line later on about fighting cameras with cameras. I put right here about how they, as in Ryoko and like so on, seem confused who is behind the camera, but I think the reader is far more confused than they are. Because I'm so confused. I'm like I already said earlier, these cameras aren't just like somebody put a camera on a tripod. This is like somebody carved a hole in the wall that looks like it was already there, put a camera in there, and if you don't know this, there has to be something in the back of there for like power and like some other feeds or whatever. They had to have built those cameras, probably built in this building. Did Isozaki put them there? Did he just let the mob come in? Like, yeah, you can have the place for a weekend and set up a 100 cameras in here. I don't know.
Manuel?
What?
I think it's at this point that we should just apply the Mystery Science Theater 3000 mantra and just don't question it.
Don't question it. So yeah, this volume is actually the one that ends with the author mentioning the split between the manga and the light novel crowd. So yeah, I guess I was wrong earlier. But he does mention it.
Oh yeah, actually here I'm looking at it too. He says this is where we've passed the middle of the Shinsengumi storyline, but there's only one more volume.
Well, I mean, halfway through it would have been the halfway point, so.
Well, we should also point out that volume 6 is longer than all the other volumes.
It is, yeah. I do feel like the Shinsengumi arc wanted to be longer than it is.
Yeah, actually, we were live when I said this. I don't know if this is fact. I could not find any references to this period. It gets the vibe that this was cut short. Like they were probably told like, hey, you guys gotta finish this by November, and it's like April or something. It's like, shit, we were gonna run this till the summer kind of thing, or next summer, I mean to say. And it's like, oh, I guess we gotta wrap it up, because this last volume, not only is it longer, it feels the most rushed.
Yes, we get the resolutions to our fight. Asuka talks about how gives a confession how she's just a wannabe ninja, but that ends up being a distraction. Yeah. Which allows Xiaoxing to attack, which doesn't go off fully well, but I think it earned some respect from Ninja Boy.
Yeah, because he suddenly changes here.
Yeah,
he's a new character again. He feels like he's now the guy that we were introduced to the first time we see him.
Yeah, and then they also started implying that Asuka and him are kind of falling in love, and I'm like, for what? And let's not forget that if you want to ignore that, like maybe they retconned it, he potentially did some horrible shit to you like 3 days ago. Like, no. Unless they actually retcon that the way I'm reading it, and they kind of implied that was all illusions, then maybe. But otherwise, bro, he like assaulted you. Like, call the police. Like, get him in jail, please. But yeah, no, I just have it in my notes. Asuka Kuronari is her full name because I'd forgotten earlier, and I didn't know that.
We're also going to find out that he is the police, essentially, in a minute.
Oh,
So yes, then we are back to the Taiho versus Kizuma fight, or what's his name? Shizuma fight. Yes, Shizuma fight. That ends, and I believe Shizuma is like the wins, and we see another scene just taken out of like the very end of Ashita no Joe with Taiho giving Momoi his gloves.
oh God, yes.
Sadly, we don't get a recreation of the final panel of Ashita no Joe. But that at least means that he's still alive.
I can't help but feel that no matter how you look at this too, because Shizuma kind of won that fight, it was a lot more of a fair fight. It wasn't like Shizuma overpowered him, like, you know what I'm trying to say. It wasn't like a squash match.
I mean, they're boxing, not playing squash.
Shut up. In my head, I'm like, would Taiho have won if he hadn't have fought Megumi before? Momoi? Sorry, Momoi.
I mean, her name is Momoi Megumi, or Megumi
Oh,
Megoi.
thank God. Would he have won if he hadn't have like, you know, fought her before? Because he got pretty beat up there, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I don't know. But anyways, Momoi is clearly falling in love with him. Said the whole thing. Also during the fight, there's a brief flashback, which is in the anime a bit longer, where it shows where Shizuma got his training from like an old drunk guy.
Apparently taught him how to use chi.
Yeah, exactly. Who taught him how to use chi. And I'm like, oh, are we going to see a fireball in a second? Like, Hadouken? Or like whatever Kyo says in King of Fighters, because I don't think we said this during the show, but like I mentioned this earlier, because he looks so different when he first shows up. He looks like a hobo in the first volume.
In the first volume, he's Soul Bad Guy. In the second volume, he's Kyo.
And then starting by the second volume onward,
Or half, not volume.
he's totally dressed like Kyo. Yeah, I meant second half too. But he's totally dressed like Kyo from this point on. And if you don't know, Kyo Kusanagi is the same last name. Kyo Kusanagi from King of Fighters. He might also be from Fatal Fury.
Then it's the...
What is her name? Midori's hacking the system. She's doing that, where she's like, you know, I'm in, guys. The 1990s thing. They're all getting ready to face G. Which, by the way, at this point, like the structure of the whole thing has already gone. Taiho's lost. Kunugi's good, I guess. So those Taiho, I guess. And now they're going to fight G. And I'm like, wait, Shizuma has never fought for their side.
He was the wild card they would hope would be on this side.
He mentions that at like before he fights Taiho. He's like, yeah, I didn't really care about this from the beginning. I just wanted to fight the strongest.
And like I was just like, what the hell, bro? You're messing up the structure.
They picked the wrong wild card, Manuel.
Yeah, G didn't do a very good job.
Oh yeah, we also haven't gone over how Chi is connected to Aoi, because that goes through her backstory, and I think we've already had it at this point in the manga.
Real fast, I want to point this out here. Like Midori was hacking, and she's about to get like beat up by some guards or whatever. They're about to beat her up, and she's like, I don't want to hurt you. She has like a stun gun, and then like they get beat up, and it's Kanuki who saved her, and it's all like, oh my God, I don't like his change, but whatever. He changes more still. But yeah, so we get the G thing because Aoi and Ryoko are going to face off against G, and Aoi wants to fight him herself, and she mentions the whole thing. Do you want to mention it, JD?
Yeah, when they had fought earlier, Ryoko and G, Ryoko noticed that G uses a similar kind of swordsmanship to Aoi and asks her about the connection between them. He was also one of the orphans. He got, I guess, adopted by some organized crime folks, brainwashed him, like trying to make him in the perfect killer and bodyguard. And now she's kind of vowed to bring him back to the person he used to be.
Yeah, we get a little bit like some flashes of his childhood and stuff.
I like how casual you made that flashback.
Yeah, they starved him for days and made him kill a dog to get food.
Yes, that's wild. I couldn't believe it. I was like, whoa. They kept him in a cage and they starved him for 3 days, and they have the dog. There's like, kill the dog. And then he's all like, no, you know. Well, he doesn't say no. He just like doesn't. He doesn't want to. And it's like, and then they just like end the scenes like 3 days later. He killed the dog. And like you mentioned the bodyguard thing, but like that mob guy, he was like, you know, I'm gonna take over the world. By like, did they briefly mention that they're like doing experiments and BS on them or whatever? But that he gets cancer and dies. Then they all just kill themselves, and he becomes like the one who's free. G, who has no name. What does the G stand for?
Gramps.
Gramps.
We've been over this. I think it's just a joke that got translated in English, where he assumes G is like GG, like old man in Japanese. So it still works for being Gramps in English. Also, Manuel clearly it stands for geese. Come on.
Geese?
From Fatal Fury.
It is! Anyway, sorry. So Aoi and him like apparently he shows up. Actually, am I jumping ahead too far? I don't think they show it now. Where Aoi and him have like the thing.
Which thing?
Well, anyways, okay. Well, hold on. So basically, the Aoi and G, well, they all start fighting G at first. Ryoko joins in briefly at the beginning, and we get more flashbacks where Aoi shows like, oh, well, he went back to the church and like tried to like nurse him back to health and make him good, and he taught her how to fight. And I'm like, wait, I thought the priest taught you how to fight.
I assume they got basic training from that. Maybe he just showed her. She learned more techniques from him, and that's why they have similar technique.
So yeah, he showed her how to fight, but then he like took off anyway. But I have it in my notes there. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's like flashbacks to training with that Oi, and then G says "Gyat."
Yeah, I saw that.
Like
I thought it was just the modern translation for some reason had that. I don't know this modern slang. I'm sorry.
The original one. I just found that funny. I'm like, he said "Gyat."
We found the origin, people.
Exactly. We found it in 2003. Someone said "Gyat." I couldn't believe. And he said it too. It wasn't the untranslated like sound effects. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, and then Aoi takes over the fight, and it's like Ryoko, like I have this in my notes too. She praises Ryoko and girls in general. It gets really weird because like when Ryoko's fighting G, it turns out that Aoi and Ryoko trained a bit in the off thing, and Aoi taught her like some of her moves or whatever, which are also some of G's moves. And in my head, I'm like, when did Ryoko suddenly become like? And I guess that this is kind of just the rewrite they kind of had to do. When did she become like level 1 Goku? They kind of introduced her in the manga as if she was already super powerful, beating everyone up, and then suddenly everyone here seems better than her.
Serial escalation manual.
She was the best samurai in the whole high school, but now they got 3 high schools to worry about.
But Aoi went to the same school. Like, oh, we didn't even mention this earlier. The Shinsengumi, presumably, like, we never get the breakdown of the schools they came from, but Shaoxing, Asuka, and Momoe came from a different school. But Aoi goes to Daimon because they ask her, you go to the same school as her, right? What's she like?
That is true. Yeah, because she comes in with the student council, Nurse Joyce.
I'm confused. I'm like, where was she during the whole first chapter, the whole first half? I mean, like, where was she? Like,
school, Manuel.
Studying?
I know, studying. Who's studying?
Someone had to be.
I really want to see the school's like academic performance. Like, surely it can't be good.
Well, that's what the whole fight with the teacher was about. He was worried that if everyone's still fighting, then they're not going to do well in their tests. And the principal's very certain that they still will, don't worry. And then Ryoko can't even do her finals.
So meanwhile, during the whole fight, like actually even before Ryoko ends up leaving the fight to just G and Aoi, Shizuma's not just like chilling out there. By now, that other dude has shown up, like as if they forgot about it. The dude with the cross thing, I don't know who the hell his name is. He shows up to fight Shizuma, the 5th member, who's like G's lackey. He shows up and gets beat up. I don't even know what to tell you there. I honestly feel like they only had that fight because they realized they had to. They forgot about his character. They needed to wrap it up. And they gave him a bit of a backstory. Apparently he got beat up at some point, or like, I don't know, his gang got beat up and then G took him in. And they imply that, because they even use the terminology about like, oh, they took him in like a stray. Like maybe G felt sorry about the dog. And they actually imply that more than once, that G always thinks about that dog.
Got that dog in him, Manuel. What can we say?
He got that dog. But yeah, he took in this homie to like that Shizuma just beats up. The fight is like 5 pages. I was like, I actually had to go back, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's his name? Like, say his name before you kill him.
Yeah, I'm looking, kind of trying to look closely. I don't see his name anywhere.
And it's actually when Aoi sends Ryoko, I think it's when they're still fighting, and Aoi has a line like, "Go help your boyfriend."
Well, I feel like they'd been teasing that for a bit, though.
Oh yeah.
They've
been saying that a lot. Like it's been like, I think they've been calling him the boyfriend since the first volume. To be fair,
yeah.
But still, like I think that's when they mentioned. I think Azumi called him, referred to him as Ryoko's boyfriend. Then also now that like Midori's able to hack because Kanugi's like watching out for her. There's a line with like, "This system is my bitch."
Oh, the early 2000s.
I know. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. So it gets so weird. This is where the whole thing starts, because now Shizuma and Ryoko are gonna fight, which I call bullshit on, because Shizuma has been like fighting for like fucking hours at this point.
Yeah, but at this point he's also explicitly superhuman. So
they're gonna fight. There's also a line where it's like, you know, the real bout's gonna. I think they say the real bout's just started or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, they said it. It's a wrap.
No, they haven't said the high school part along with it. Got to be real about high school. 4 words, all in that order.
So I don't know where it is in my notes. I must not have written it down. I think it happened way earlier. but there's the part where like Kanugi, a bunch of ninjas show up.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to say this. So a bunch of ninjas show up and they're all like, "Oh, we have a letter from your father," and the letter is basically like, "Oh, I'm giving you the clan because I'm getting married." That's basically the short version.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing that happens in Japanese like manga a lot, where the dad just randomly gets married. Like the kid never seemed to know that their parents were even dating anyone or seeing anyone for potential marriages. It's like, hey, I got married. Meet your new stepsisters. Oh, you've met them before. Hopefully nothing gets complicated.
So yeah, exactly. So yeah, that happened. I think after the Asuka fight, because I think at some point she mentioned like, "Oh, he's a real ninja" or something like that. So he's the leader of this ninja clan now. I think that's why he decides to turn good. They also mentioned, I don't know what Taiho's fighting for, but they mentioned earlier that they have some hold on his family. I don't know what they could have had because apparently the dad seemed fine. But now that the other ninjas, I guess, are all following him, he doesn't have to follow like G and his buddies anymore.
Which is good because like all of his ninjas seem to have like something important coming up. Some of them are getting married. Some of them are about, or one of them is about to become a father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Shizuma and Ryoko, do you have any comments about the fight?
I mean, it didn't really feel like it was building up to it at this point, other than that we knew they would eventually clash. But I guess they got to do it to finish off the series.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's my big takeaway. This fight felt like, and even the lead up to it when they just sent her off, because I'm just gonna say it right now. They stopped caring about everything else at this point. Aoi and G are still fighting, and there's even a point when Momoe and Shaoxin eventually go help her, and they open the door. They're like, "Oh!" And that's it.
Yeah, even like Ryoko doesn't want to do the fight because she's like, "Hey, hold on, there's still something like actually real happening." And he's like, "Oh, so you're giving up?"
And it's like, guys, like there is like a fucking like the mob is still active. Like hold on, you guys can fight. Don't even have to like be like giving up. Just like,
and even the only adult in the room, the principal's like, "Yeah, I want to watch them fight."
Yeah, we eventually do get the resolution of what happens. Well, we don't get to see how the G Aoi fight ends. I actually had to I went back to that. I like scoured panels to see if there was any reference of what happened. We never find out how that fight ends. Presumably, G just let her live and just left because we're going to say eventually. But the fight with Ryoko and Shizuma just felt like, first of all, we've seen this fight already. There was one in the first volume. I don't know.
I mean, sure, but we're also supposed to see how far they've come at this point, especially because now that he's gone from possibly superhuman to actually has chi powers that can kill people just outright.
I don't know. It's just like, I agree, but it's just like, it definitely had like, well, we have to end it on this fight kind of vibes.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you don't like it when like the hero and the person who defeated them earlier fight again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, I guess, any of the Rocky sequels.
Exactly.
Or let me introduce you to this thing called manga.
It's the heroic rematch, Manuel. You lose the first fight, then you come back stronger and take them down.
I don't know, like the fight goes back and forth, like they get their upper hands here and there. There's a part where like Ryoko kind of has like, she mentions her dream or whatever, and I have it in my notes. Was her dream being in the bath and someone calling her pretty? Because that's what she dreamed of. Remember, she's like in the bath and someone, like a shadowy figure, walks up, like, "You're pretty," or something like that. And I'm like, what?
I think it's someone telling her that she can do both of the things that she feels conflicted about, while still being, I guess, seen as a woman.
I didn't mention it earlier, but it's funny that that's the whole concept thing is, because in the very first volume, there is a sort of a bath scene and we get to see her and she is like ripped. Do you remember that? Like they show her and she's like, that makes sense because that's the way she should be, you know, because she's like, if she's this strong and she trains. But then when we start seeing her now, she's just normal big titty anime girl. So I'm like, I kind of was annoyed that they kind of like ditched that at some point. But whatever. I mean, because there is another shower. Like obviously that bath scene I mentioned briefly. I don't think I told you that. I think I cut off. I didn't mention it, but there was a bath scene where they were like, the Sheets and Gumi were bonding or whatever. So they went to the bathhouse or whatever. But anyway, is there any shock that Ryoko wins this fight?
No. I do want to mention during this fight, they start doing this thing that they had not ever done at any other point in the manga, where there's these full page sketches.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm wondering, I think it's a really cool creative choice, but also, was it one? Or does it also have to do with how rushed the rest of this was?
Yeah. They probably were like, okay, we don't have the time to like draw this. We'll just make this big. They also confessed their love during the fight.
He concedes and confesses to her, which, you know, makes sense
She
for him
says
at
it
least.
later on. I mean, she says it like afterwards, but still, like they both say they love each other basically, and I'm like, what the fuck?
It feels kind of like a platonic thing. Like all these characters are all like, "Oh, I love you," all of us together, or even in like a respect kind of way.
At least
it's funny because
willing to believe is romantic just because he probably likes a woman who is his equal in combat, and she's like the closest to that.
Yeah.
it wraps up there very fast, very quickly after that. We didn't mention this, but like the announcer was there, the principal was there, like the last real K fight, I guess. The K fights have won. And they very briefly try to explain away all the stuff we just saw that was confusing. Like the evil people above G were trying to like set G up for the fall and get him arrested, which I would love to have seen the cops arrest him. I'm sure he just ran away again. But because G, like, because the hacking that Midori did, they realize who's behind it, so they have a new fall guy who's like the evil guy's lackey, who I don't think has a name. They did give him a name. They gave him a name. I didn't write it down though, but they did say his name. He's like some executive. They put it all on him. He was behind the betting ring, and also he murdered the president of the Isozaki. Oh, he shot. I don't think he was dead. He shot. It was behind the shooting of the Isozaki president. So that's why the student council president was invested in all this. But yeah, apparently that's what all this started at. And they did imply that earlier, like he had some personal investment in there. And then it turns out that Midori. Sorry, I don't know. I just said her name earlier. Midori's like, I think her father was murdered or something like that, because they mentioned that briefly too. Also, they show Ryoko as a nurse again. Like, I don't know why. I thought this was a big time skip, and she like went to school to become a nurse, but no, she was just wearing a nurse outfit for some reason. And then G's still around. Everyone's still there. This is clearly leading up to another arc that never happens.
It kind of just feels like wrapping it up. You get all the little like news reports like, oh, this is done, this is done.
Well, the evil guy, we never get to see him. Remember Inspector Gadget? He was like that dude, the dude with the cat.
What?
Yeah, it was like him.
Yeah,
because they always showed him like
cool.
They always showed him like that. He was always like in the shadow, like they never showed his face. And at the very end, he's like, I guess you need to take the fall. And that guy just took the fall for it, you know? And he's still around.
I assume that guy must be involved in the light novels.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I should have said that. I did say it earlier and I forgot to mention, I would have forgot to mention it again, that apparently that mob, all the mob stuff, like the greater overall city stuff is in the light novels.
Makes sense.
So like, and the Isozaki Foundation is mentioned too. Like, I'm not sure if the Student Council President's arcs, they haven't read it, but and the whole alliance between the other schools that happens in the light novels as well. So yeah, I'm just like, maybe if we had the light novels, this would make more sense. Yeah. And then Daisaku makes another photo book of her. And then like she's gonna throw it away. She's like, no, I'll keep this one. Make one for the others too, like the Shitsugumi members or whatever. Oh, and then like we kind of get like minor Shitsugumi follow-ups. Xiaoxing still beating up people, so like she has 50 more to go, 100 more to go. Yeah, 50 more. Yeah. We
get everybody's name at this point now too, just in case.
Oh, they even show the guy. I forgot. I'm like, oh my god. Hold on, I'm trying to open the last chapter again to look at it, but I couldn't. I remember that too. I'm like, no. You rebranded. Don't show
Group
him.
Chain
Especially.
Of Steel. A self-styled principal, sexy school doctor, beautiful fighting girls, mysterious girl at shrine. I love it's like credits, which actually kind of goes along with the whole thing has been styled this way. Like, not only do they make all the movie references, but everything's called episodes. This does kind of feel like it's like the closing credits.
Wait, do they show the mysterious girl at shrine? Oh, they do.
Going off what B was saying about how the movie inspiration, you also see, especially in the beginning, there are shots that are like clear homages to samurai films and to fighting films in some of the later ones. Like we were talking about the Rocky and the Ashita no Joe ones. I don't think the Ashita no Joe live action movie had come out by then, though.
Yeah, there's a line about the good, bad, the ugly. There's some other, there's a bunch of movie references in this, and I don't think any of us took notes of all of them.
Oh,
but there's a bunch.
Now that I'm reading it, I was wrong. Midori's father didn't get killed or whatever. It says businessman absolved of crime. So I think like her family, or probably her father, was being pinned or something for some of this. Also, we get to see Tatsuya and what's her face?
I like that Tatsuya is credited as object of desire.
Yeah. We didn't mention it earlier, but B did mention it like briefly. Koga's shown there because Koga gets like so thrown to the background, but Koga does show back up at the end, and I'm like, is he gonna fight Shizuma too? You would think with all this wrap up, they would bring back the teacher, but no, they don't. And yeah, so presumably everyone's happy. Ryoko's like a great woman now or whatever. Hitomi is like still being Hitomi. Aoi and G gonna have their unfinished business and whatever. And yeah, who knows?
She does her little Soul Calibur, just kidding.
I know. So before we start talking about our final thoughts on the manga, do you want to hear something funny?
What?
I think I mentioned this briefly in the last episode, and I might have mentioned this here and there before. So not only was this one of TokyoPop's biggest releases at the time, that they really put a lot of effort behind promoting and whatever. Now, I had heard about this at the time, and I thought it was fake. So they were apparently in talks to make a Samurai Girl Real Bout High School movie
Yeah, I just saw that a while ago too.
starring Melissa Joan Hart. And I remember this being news when it
Sabrina the
happened.
Teenage Witch.
Now, for those who don't know Stu Levy, he's the guy behind TokyoPop. Still is, by the way. He's kind of like the Hulk Hogan. Okay, not as bad. I don't know. He's not, as far as I know, he's not racist. But he's the Hulk Hogan of manga, whereas in like he tells tall tales, so to speak. He also does have some pretty big friends. Like he's friends with what's her name from Hole, Kurt Cobain's ex-wife or
Courtney Love.
Courtney Love. Yeah, he's friends with Courtney Love because I think they
His widow.
There you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, not his ex-wife. They were still married when he. Sadly,
I don't know what the term is, but yeah, the widow. I remember that TokyoPop did a whole manga that I think she wrote or she started or something like that. Well, anyways, so my point is he is like kind of like he also did like a reality show called The Greatest American Otaku. There's a whole thing to look up on Stu Levy. He's an interesting figure. So I just thought for all these decades, because I remember when they announced it, that I remember going to a panel where they were still talking about it, like in Long Beach, at the Long Beach AX. They were still talking about like, oh yeah, the Samurai Girl movie's coming out soon. Huh?
The name of the manga is Princess Ai.
Oh, Princess Ai. But yeah, I remember like them talking about the movie, and I thought it was like the Robotech movie where they were just making up things. Like they probably just met Melissa Joan Hart once and talked about it. But I dug up an article where first of all, most of the article does not interview Stu Levy at all. It interviews I don't have her in my notes here. Melissa Joan Hart's mom, who is in charge. She's in charge of Hart's production. They have a production company, and it was going to happen.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was gonna say, yeah, I know that her mother's like her like manager and her executive producer with that, because I was just watching old clips of Jeopardy, and there was one from like a celebrity episode where she was on, and she was talking about her mother. Also, I just want to add in, having looked up the Princess Ai manga, apparently with art by Ai Yazawa of Nana fame.
Oh. You know what? That's amazing. And I was gonna say like it looks like Nana, but yeah, that's amazing. That's also a hot topic right now because I might or might not be getting a revival. But yeah, so apparently it had a script. It had a script writer, and I have the direct quote. Dan Gordon, by the way, is quoted as this, the guy who wrote the script. I think he has credits, like big name Hollywood credits. Dan Gordon describes the script as a delicious action comedy mix of Clueless meets Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I feel like you just threw a lot of words in a blender.
Exactly. So it gets better. And this isn't a direct quote. This is just like what look up her name. So I keep calling her Melissa Joan Hart's mom. But yeah, Melissa Joan Hart's mom was saying this. It's the story of an ancient samurai warrior reincarnated as a 20-something-year-old sushi bar hostess. Ryoko discovers she's mankind's only hope in destroying a coven of murderous wolverines. Direct quote, by the way. I don't know what they mean, like, what? Who are hatched every 5,000 years, and if left unchecked, will destroy all humanity.
Okay, also, Manuel, first thing, her mother's name is Paula, so it's Paula Hart.
Yeah, so Paula Hart actually was the one talking all this stuff. Like, she was the one interviewed by, I think this was an Anime News Network article. Oh no, this is an Anime News Network. It's just like an older, like random defunct website. I had to go to the Wayback Machine to find this, by the way. So apparently that was going to be the plot. There's no high school, by the way, in case you didn't catch that. A 20-something-year-old sushi bar hostess. I don't know if they were still going to call it, like, they were going to just call it Samurai Girl. At that point, it's no longer Real Bout High School, first of all.
Real Bout Samurai Girl.
Honestly, I'm curious how this fell apart. At the end of this article, they mentioned that they were in talks with a production company to actually fund the thing. So obviously those talks went nowhere. But that plot is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2000s adaptations of any Japanese media at all. Just
I wish we had this though. I fucking wish we had this. You know how great this would be? And don't get me wrong, I'm not even trying to convince myself it would be good. But you know how amazing this would be to look back on? Like, this would be like Dragon Ball Evolution before Dragon Ball Evolution. I'd probably like it. I'm sure it'd be cheesy, but like, she was gonna play a character named Ryoko. Melissa Joan Hart. Yeah. And time frame wise, I had to look into this. This is post Sabrina. Like, Sabrina had already wrapped up by this point. This is probably going to be her next project afterwards. I'm upset it never happened. So that's the thing. So what are your final thoughts?
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I have issues with the second half, but I also thought it was really cool in general. It was a fun read.
Yeah, that's my takeaway too. Like, you took the words right out of my mouth. It was a fun read. It moved pretty quickly. It felt a lot less cerebral than the last few ones we read. And
I kind of felt like it was gonna be after the first half, and then suddenly it was like, nah.
Yeah, it's a good dumb manga. Like, I like to use the word like good dumb this, and I just mean like it feels like, you know, like a Marvel movie. That's always my comparison. Where it's all like
shonen.
It's junk food.
It's junk food. There you go. It's perfect. It's like I went to Wendy's. I got me a Dave's double or whatever you call it.
The art definitely carries it. I mean, it has pretty strong characters. Not much plot to go on. I'm not really bothered by a lack of plot. The characters are fun, and the art is great. excellent.
Yeah, and by the way, I didn't mention it earlier. The art is by Sora Inoue, and the story is by Reiji Saiga. And in case you're curious, they also did that duo did work on the light novel, so they worked together the whole series. It's not like that was just for the manga. JD, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, of the ones we've read for this show so far, it might be my least favorite, but I'm still liked it enough. It's probably more like a C- for me than anything else we've read.
I liked it more than Ray Earth.
Oh, I liked it way more than Ray Earth. That's
Yeah,
not
I
even
think
a
Ray Earth
comparison.
is still gonna be sitting at my bottom spawn of the list.
And I'm surprised you're that harsh with it. If I had to give this a letter grade, I would definitely give this like a B plus.
Well, I mean, C-
I don't
is
do letter
still
grades, but I
passing.
like it.
Yeah, I have it in my thing. Like I wish the manga series would have focused on one of the arcs. I still have mixed feelings. Honestly, I have more mixed feelings in Shitengumi than I do on the first half. If it was a 3-volume series that ended when Tatsuya left school, I'd probably think it's a lot. I think the series would have been a lot better. If that makes any sense. Like it would have just been. It would have had less meat on the bones because nothing really happened. But still, I would.
I think with more character development, it could have been a 6-volume that ended when Tatsuya left school.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I wish that they just told that story, or if they had the Shinsengumi arc in their back pocket, just started that from the beginning.
Yeah, the thing about the Shinsengumi arc is I think other manga has done that better. So it's like I like reading it, I like the characters, but I don't need it.
I don't know. I'm just not sure if the two arc thing worked in the series so short.
As I was reading this, I was thinking of another series. I haven't read the manga, but I saw the anime of it that came out. Was it last year? Yeah, it was still last year at this point, which was Tomo-chan is a girl, which just has a very similar character going through like a very similar thing, trying to find like the balance between her like toughness and her femininity. I guess I was just always comparing it to that in my head because they have very similar designs, very similar like, characterizations, and like a very similar like love interest. They're trying to get to notice them.
Yeah, I feel like that's a big trope in like these kind of series that like any kind of like, well, not just fighting, but any kind of like series that has any kind of a tomboyish character, and then like I want you to see me as a woman or be cute or whatever, balance all those sides.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Actually, it's on the taller side. Some of the illustrations give Ryoko like red hair. Some of them give her just like light brown hair. So it's really hard to get a consistent read on what it was supposed to be. Like the same kind of penchant for fighting and like the love interest who is like the only person like who can consistently beat her at the start of it. So that's where I was like seeing the things. And it just only focuses on kind of like the rom-com aspects of it. And that's why I kind of like that one more than this.
For the record, I think Ryoko has red hair in the anime.
Yeah, she does. I looked up a picture, but like the illustrations of the manga are inconsistent.
Oh, that's just manga. Like I always feel like I don't know if the same person inks it as draws it, and I just feel like they just go white. They go ham sometimes.
Well, I mean, the coloration is different. Like sometimes it's a very bright red, sometimes it's more brownish red, and sometimes it's just straight up brown.
By the way, I was looking at the Bout High School manga just to double check because I mean anime, and like I came across anime wallpapers, and it's like the So 2000s anime wallpapers. You know what I'm talking about? They have like that's some dude just like made like they took the character and they put it on like a Winamp skin. Basically, it looks like because it's like weird stuff going on in the background. But yeah,
sorry, the thing I forgot to mention when we were discussing one of the fights with G that I just want to bring up now before we wrap it up. I did like the kendo stuff because I did kendo for a few years as a club in college. So seeing that was cool, especially as they show like how dangerous trying to jab someone with the ski strike, which is when you jab someone in the neck with the tip of your sword, can be, because that is very specifically something they do not allow low-level people to do because you could kill your opponent doing that.
Oh shit. There is we didn't like obviously there's a lot to cover, so we kind of jumped around. There were bits like later on, especially at the Shitegumi arc, where it's like, oh, you're still fighting with a wooden sword because like it's like I'm like we're trying to kill anyone. They're still in high school, guys. I don't know. Do I think this is worth reading? Probably not, if I'm being honest. It's very skippable.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I'd go out of my way to recommend it, but if you, I mean, it's pleasant.
If you want a good time capsule of what manga and anime, you know, because the anime is very similar. If you want a good time capsule of like where we were at in the early 2000s, this is a good time capsule. This is peak TokyoPop. It's worth it for that, especially in the translations of both, like, you know, the translation here and in the dub for the anime.
Yeah, just about everything in it is done better somewhere else, but it's not bad.
So that was my choice, and I guess that wraps up our thoughts on Samurai Girl Real Bout High School.
It does, and in my hand, I'm holding our next manga. We're going back to 3 volumes. We're going back to Viz, speaking sort of Western adaptations, loosely, I guess you could argue. We will be reading Taiyo Matsumoto's Tekken Concrete, or however you pronounce it. Here, let me go ahead and send this to you in the chat. I think you'll recognize this here. As soon as you see the art, you'll be like, oh, that one.
Hold on. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I know this one.
Yeah.
This is old.
This is from the 90s.
So we're going all the way back to Magic Knight Raiders days.
I mean, we just read literally Real Bout High School started in the 90s.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, I think the light novel series started in 97. Oh yeah, everything's been 90s.
Almost everything we've read except for one.
Yeah, Tenmaku Cinema is like the weird outlier in that it's super, super new. But yeah. Okay. Tekkon Kinkreet. Okay. TEKKONKINKREET. That's what is that? That's just for everyone listening. That's gonna be
there
fun
was
episode to say that overall.
There was a movie adaptation actually directed by a Westerner, which is why I mentioned that. It was what's his name? Yes.
What?
But it was by a Japanese anime studio, just with an American director.
Oh, that's weird. I'll see if I can watch that.
John DiMaggio's in it, Phil Lamar, all the greats from that era.
Bender? He's also Kimari from Final Fantasy X. It's interesting.
So
okay.
it's 3 volumes. You can get it as a Viz Omnibus because you can get everything as a Viz Omnibus these days.
Yeah, it's also known as Black and White.
Yes.
Like we'll call it Tekkon Kinkreet like once or twice, then we'll call it Black and White every other time. So I don't stumble over that word. Or I'll call it Black and White. Okay, that's good. Hopefully when this episode's up, we'll have Christmas around the corner. Have a happy holiday, Christmas if you celebrate it, whenever you celebrate it, Happy New Year. Just have a great time. Have a great time. Have a Happy New Year in general. And we'll see you again. We'll all be reading the wrong way well into 2025. Thank you for checking us out.
We'll see you next chapter and next year. Bye, everybody.
Bye.